Chapter 760. Young master, you didn't see wrongly. That is Master Lin. The blue-clothed servant followed his master's line of sight and nodded after confirming. Let's go and take a look. The jade-green-robed youth's eyes rippled with interest. Young master, this isn't very good. You still have to go to the shops in the south to check the accounts. The blue-clothed servant immediately looked at her nervously. Don't worry. Humans are made of iron and rice is made of steel. Let's fill our stomachs first. Seeing Lin Fengyi enter a stall, she immediately walked forward. Seeing this, the blue-clothed servant could only follow. These two people were none other than Hua Xiu's master and servant. Just as Hua Xiu was following them stealthily, Lin Fengyi and his subordinate were already seated in the shop. The stall owner in plain clothes came forward to greet them. What would the two guests like to eat? Because these two people had an extraordinary bearing, especially this man with an outstanding face, the stall owner was even more enthusiastic. 2 bowls of wonton and a tray of vegetable buns. Lin Fengyi's subordinate, Li Hu, immediately said. The stall owner happily agreed. Hua Xiu looked at this plain and ordinary stall and thought that this miser was really stingy. He couldn't even bear to bring his subordinates to eat something good. However, she still secretly sneaked in, wanting to observe him from afar. Unfortunately, this stall was only so big. Moreover, Hua Xiu's iconic men's clothing was basically recognized by everyone in Jiangnan. Therefore, oh, young Master Hua, you also came? Seeing Hua Xiu, the stall owner hurriedly greeted her. Hua Xiu often came here to sit when she had nothing to do, so the stall owner recognized her at a glance. Hua Xiu rolled her eyes. Couldn't this stall owner pretend that he didn't see her? At this time, she felt 2 gazes in front of her. She couldn't help but unwillingly put down the sleeve that was covering her face. After a few coughs, her face changed into a surprised expression of meeting friends from thousands of miles away. What a coincidence, Master Lin is also here. Lin Fengyi sized up the person in front of him and smiled faintly. What a coincidence. As soon as these 2 words came out, Hua Xiu guiltily shifted his gaze. In the past, when the 2 of them met, they would always be at each other's throats. Of course, it was Hua Xiu who took the initiative to declare war. However, at this moment, Hua Xiu had a guilty conscience, which caused his momentum to weaken as soon as he appeared. Therefore, it gave people a feeling that he had given up. Her eyes accidentally caught a glimpse of Lin Fengyi's half-smile. Hua Xiu immediately sensed that something was wrong. No, she couldn't lose before the battle. Lord Lin, do you like the desserts here too? Hua Xiu came over and said with a smile. As the saying goes, don't hit a smiling person. Hua Xiu always used this principle very thoroughly. Miss Hua, do you want to sit with me? It wasn't that Lin Fengyi couldn't tell that he was being followed. He originally wanted to let her go, but when he saw her rolling her eyes, he couldn't help but find it funny, so he took the initiative to invite her. Since Lord Lin has invited me so kindly, then I won't be polite. Hua Xiuli immediately sat down, as if he was afraid that the other party would go back on his word. Li Hu, who was sitting opposite Hua Xiuli, stared at him with wide eyes. Clearly, his lord was just being polite. Li Hu, order a few dishes for that little brother and treat him well. Lin Fengyi smiled at Li Hu. Li Hu understood tacitly and stood up to bring off Fu to another table. However, Fu didn't dare to disobey. She only turned back to look at her master several times, afraid that she would cause trouble if she wasn't careful. Her cautious and fearful look pleased Lin Fengyi. I didn't expect Lord Lin to be so reasonable. Hua Xiuli looked at him and chuckled. Lin Fengyi drank his tea and smiled when he heard this. I'm afraid that Miss Hua and this official's conversation later will scare others. Hua Xiuli's mouth twitched. Was he just mocking her for speaking so harshly? What a miser. When the shop owner heard Hua Xiuli call him Lord Lin, he couldn't help but move closer to Ah Fu and ask about Lin Fengyi's identity. When he found out that he was the prefectural magistrate, he was shocked at first. Then, he called for his servant and daughter in the inner room to quickly prepare the food. Perhaps it was because so many high officials and nobles had come to the shop today, the simple and honest shop owner felt that their presence had brought light to his humble dwelling. He smiled even more happily and couldn't help but hum a song as he prepared the food. Originally, Hua Xiaoli felt that it was unfair, but when she heard the shop owner's off-key singing, she couldn't help but purse her lips and smile. When Lin Fengyi drank his tea, he saw the peaceful smile on her face. His eyes were slightly dazed, but it was quickly diluted by the steam of the tea. This official is coming here for the first time. Judging from Miss Hua's appearance, you should be a regular customer. Lin Fengyi found a topic to talk about. When Hua Xiaoli heard that he was answering her question, she subconsciously nodded. Then, she took a cup and poured tea for herself. I often pass by here. Their steamed buns are more authentic, and their tofu pudding is also not bad. Most importantly, it's comfortable. Lin Fengyi should be referring to the environment. Lin Fengyi looked around and felt that although the shop was small, it wasn't messy. It was clean and tidy, and it just so happened that he could see Mount Tai in the distance from the window. It made him feel relaxed and happy. Today, he had only walked in casually. Here you are, Lord Lin. Your steamed buns and wontons will be served later. The shop owner brought out a tray of steamed buns. Hua Xiaoli glanced at the steamed buns and sneered, Lord Lin, these are all vegetarian dishes. Vegetarian dishes are good for the body. If you eat too much fish and meat, I'm afraid it's bad for the body. Lin Fengyi looked at her meaningfully. I'm used to eating too much fish and meat. Hua Xiaoli slammed the table. Boss, I want a tray of meat buns and pork and cabbage dumplings. When she finished speaking, she glanced at Lin Fengyi. This lady wants to go against you. Lin Fengyi expressed that he was fine with it. Miss Hua, do you want to try the vegetarian steamed buns? Lin Fengyi asked in a friendly manner out of gentlemanly demeanor. Because she had ordered the steamed buns at the back, she could only watch helplessly as steam rose from the steamed buns. When she heard Lin Fengyi's question, Hua Xiaoli swallowed her saliva and shook her head. I don't eat vegetarian dishes. When the busy shop owner heard this, he turned to look at Hua Xiaoli curiously. He didn't have the foresight to expose her. Young Master Hua, you usually order vegetarian steamed buns when you come here. Aren't you eating them today? Hua Xiaoli was speechless. This shop owner was too honest. Lin Fengyi chuckled. If that's the case, then this official will eat first. Hua Xiaoli covered her face with her sleeve. How embarrassing. She had never lost so much face in front of him before. The taste is indeed not bad. Lin Fengyi picked up a steamed bun with his chopsticks and took a gentle bite. He nodded and praised. After walking for an entire morning, Hua Xiaoli was already hungry. When she heard his words, she felt even hungrier. How infuriating. Wait a minute, wasn't the purpose of her visit just now to teach him a lesson? How could she forget? Then, she raised a wicked smile. Lin Fengyi, who had been observing her, suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. Chapter 761. Hua Xiao clenched her fists under the table. Then, she stood up and leaned in Lin Fengyi's direction. Lin Fengyi didn't know what she was going to do and was on guard. However, at this moment, a faint fragrance drifted into his nose and he was a little absent-minded. At this moment, Hua Xiao didn't notice his abnormality and didn't notice the two of them getting too close. Instead, she spoke as she worked, Official Lin isn't from Jiangnan. Perhaps you don't know that we like to add some seasoning to the buns to make them more delicious. As she spoke, she had already taken the mustard from the table and poured it into the basket. After she finished speaking, the half bottle of mustard was almost empty. Lin Fengyi's gaze moved from her fair and tender side face to the buns. She really didn't hold back when pouring the mustard. Official Lin, don't be polite with me. Quickly try it, quickly try it. It tastes really good. As soon as Hua Xiu sat down, she immediately tried her best to recommend it and even pushed the steamer in front of him. She was very attentive. Lin Fengyi raised his eyebrows. Didn't anyone tell her that at this moment, she looked like a weasel paying respects to a chicken? However, he didn't know why, but under her bright and expectant eyes, he couldn't think of any words to refuse. Moreover, he seemed to want to see her arrogant expression after she got her way. After trying a mouthful, Lin Fengyi came back to his senses. The impact on his taste wasn't as great as the impact on his thoughts. Hua Xiu was originally waiting for him to choke and lose his poise. However, after waiting for a long time, she only saw him calmly eating the bun one mouthful at a time. Hua Xiu stared at him as if she had seen a ghost. "Miss Hua, the taste is really good. Do you want to try it?" Lin Fengyi saw her staring at him with an amused expression and couldn't help but tease her. Hua Xiu didn't believe that he could eat such a disgusting bun. Could it be that it wasn't mustard? When she heard this, she picked up a pair of chopsticks and put it into her mouth. Lin Fengyi's lips curved into a smile. As soon as it entered her mouth, Hua Xiu's face scrunched up. Who said it was delicious? She saw a ghost. She really wanted to vomit. However, she was the one who had boasted just now. Since he had chosen this path, he had to finish it even if he had to kneel. She swallowed a mouthful with tears in her eyes, and then agreed with him with teary eyes, "Es delicious." After saying that, she immediately threw the bun to the side and decided not to eat it again. She was dying of thirst. Just as the thought flashed through his mind, someone handed him a cup of tea. Hua Xiu immediately took it from Hua Xiu's sleeve and gulped down a few mouthfuls to suppress the spiciness. "Wait, water." After she finished drinking, she looked at the person in front of her with a guilty conscience. Then, she smiled carelessly. Lin Fengyi didn't argue with her. At this time, the wontons were already served, so he didn't pay attention to her anymore because he had something important to deal with later. However, she had gone for wool and come home shorn. How could she take this lying down? Or rather, she could not swallow this mouthful of mustard, even though she had taken the initiative to do so. Just as she was racking her brains to think of a way to get revenge, she caught a glimpse of the young woman next to the counter staring at the person beside her like a love-struck fool. Hua Xiu often came to eat here, so she recognized that this was the restaurant owner's daughter. At this time, the young woman dressed in pink seemed to have made up her mind. She turned and went into the kitchen. After a while, she came out with a bowl and walked directly to their table. "Sir, this is our restaurant's famous sweet tofu. You can try it." Her voice was so soft that it could be squeezed out of it. Her small face was bashful as she secretly glanced at Lin Fengyi. Hua Xiu suddenly felt goosebumps all over her body. She immediately blinked, wanting to see how Lin Fengyi would respond. She saw Lin Fengyi calmly raise his head. His gaze was also very proper, and he didn't look around casually. This one didn't order this sweet tofu. "Miss, did you make a mistake?" When the young woman heard this gentle and mellow voice, 2 blushes floated up on her cheeks. She lowered her head even more. "This is a gift from this shop to you, sir. You are honest and clean in Jiangnan and uphold justice for the common people. We common people are very grateful to you. This is this official's duty." Lin Fengyi smiled faintly. Hua Xiu saw that the young woman became even more bashful because of his smile. She couldn't help but scorn in her heart. What's the point of smiling so beautifully? Aha! However, seeing that Lin Fengyi still wanted to refuse, Hua Xiu immediately reached out to stop Lin Fengyi. Under Lin Fengyi's puzzled expression, Hua Xiu turned to the woman and said, "Miss, thank you for supporting our lord. We will accept this bowl of tofu." A disapproving gaze landed on Hua Xiu. She became even more pleased with herself. She wanted to make you uncomfortable. She wanted to oppose you. The young woman originally wanted to retreat, but when she heard Hua Xiu's words, she immediately agreed. Then, she put down the bowl and trotted away. When she stood still, she looked back and smiled shyly at Lin Fengyi. When Hua Xiu saw this scene, she pursed her lips and snickered. Lin Fengyi looked at her indifferently. When did this official become Miss Hua's sir? Hua Xiu smelled the displeasure in his words and felt even more delighted. If the enemy was unhappy, she would be happy. This bowl of tofu was specially sent up by a beauty. Sir, you should be happy to receive her favor. Hua Xiu pretended to be innocent and automatically ignored his question. Lin Fengyi saw the schadenfreude in her eyes. She was watching the show from the side just now. Don't think that he didn't know. So what? She laughed mischievously. Sir Lin, you don't know, but this tofu beauty is famous on this street. Many people admire her. So what? Tofu beauty isn't easily moved. She's usually cold to people. This is the first time I've seen her so passionate. So what? It was this sentence again. Lin Fengyi looked at her indifferently. Hua Xiu choked. She originally wanted to tease him, but she couldn't say anything at this moment. She heard that Lin Fengyi didn't get close to women. Many people guessed that he was gay. She even bet 100 taels that he was gay. Could it be true? Then she would have profited. But after a few days, she was bedridden and couldn't get up. Her whole body was sore and weak. She pointed at a certain person who had eaten his fill and said in a trembling voice, "Who said that you're gay? You're just a fox wearing the skin of a gay. Big bad wolf. Do you feel that losing 100 taels is a big loss?" A certain person leaned over and stole a kiss on her lips, smiling brightly. What? How did you know that I placed a bet? Compared to a certain person's sneak attack, this shocked her more. As long as I want to know, do you think there's any secret that can be hidden from my eyes? She rolled her eyes. She had almost forgotten his identity. In Jiangnan, who didn't curry favor with him? It was probably because he saw that she had been opposing him, so there must be a long line of people snitching on her. At this moment, a certain person whispered in her ear, "But I'll let you know whether you've lost or gained." What did you say? Ugh, who would love to be flirted with and whispered in a soft voice? Chapter 762. Lin Fengyi finally saw that she had stopped, so he lowered his head and continued to eat the wontons. At this time, the restaurant owner also brought the food that Hua Xiu ordered. The original restaurant owner rubbed the white cloth around his waist and wanted to say a few words, but no matter how bad his eyesight was, he could see that the atmosphere between the two was not right, so he immediately left. Since she had successfully angered Lin Fengyi, Hua Xiu's mission was complete. When she happily prepared to eat, her eyes glanced at the greasy meat dumplings and the meat bun, and she suddenly lost her appetite. She actually did not like eating meat that much. What was called lifting a rock and smashing it on your own foot? That was her situation right now. She held the spoon and stirred, but she had no appetite at all. But she was too embarrassed to order more food. This would be admitting defeat in front of Lin Fengyi. Just as she was feeling conflicted, a bowl of tofu appeared in front of her. She looked up at him in confusion, but only saw Lin Fengyi eating with his head buried in his hair. "Since you made the decision to stay, you can finish it yourself." His tone was very calm. Hua Xiu wanted to stubbornly refuse, but at this time, her stomach was already singing the empty fort stratagem. In the end, she silently brought it over. How could she fight without strength? She would talk about it after she was full. But later, Hua Xiu regretted her decision very much. "Lin Fengyi, didn't you not get close to women? What are you doing?" She softened in his arms and opened her big watery eyes as she gritted her teeth. "Eating tofu." A certain person buried his head in eating. "You're shameless." She pushed him away and said angrily. "Didn't you owe me a bowl of tofu before? I'm just eating it bite by bite." Hua Xiu's face turned red. If she had known earlier, she would not have bent over a bowl of tofu. It turned out that when the cold-faced miser was pure, he was like a vegetarian disciple who kept people 1,000 miles away. But when he seriously ate tofu, even she was afraid. Although Hua Xiao had always been wearing men's clothes and her speech and actions were quite decent, she ate very elegantly. After all, she was from a big merchant in Jiangnan. When Lin Fengyi put down his chopsticks, he glanced at her and then looked away. At this time, the tofu beauty kept sneaking glances at him. Lin Fengyi remembered the words in the flower sleeve, smiled faintly, and then threw it to the back of his mind. Although the person beside her didn't say anything, Hua Xiao could guess that he was waiting for her. She couldn't help but speed up her eating. In the end, she wiped her lips and wanted to say something, but Lin Fengyi had already taken out some money from his sleeve and placed it on the table. "Miss Hua, this official still has important matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave first." With that, he stood up and left his seat. Hua Xiao stared blankly at his departing figure, then turned back to look at the money he put down. It was just right, including the money for the bowl of tofu. When the shop owner came to clear the table, he said with a sigh, "This Lord Lin is really honest. The parents of the people." Hearing this, Hua Xiao became strangely silent. After the two of them left, Ah Fu immediately returned to her master's side. When she heard the shop owner's praise, she subconsciously looked at her master. But strangely, her master, who usually hated to be praised, didn't say a word. Could it be that her master was too full and hadn't reacted yet? "Lord, do you need this subordinate to help you buy some water?" Li Hu followed behind and thought for a moment before finally asking. Lin Fengyi's footsteps paused as he thought of the mustard bun. His throat was still a bit parched. Li Hu sighed in relief and immediately turned to buy water. His lord disliked those strange smells the most, so his diet had always been light. Who knew that he would encounter the Hua family's young master who didn't play by the rules and even plotted against his lord? Just now, he almost thought that his lord was going to turn hostile, but in the end, his lord actually ate the mustard bun. It was simply a shock to him. But as expected of his wise and mighty lord, he was actually able to swallow it. Because of the discomfort in his throat, Lin Fengyi, who was waiting on the street, couldn't help but recall Hua Xiao's shocked expression when he pushed the tofu over. He knew that he wasn't a soft-hearted person, but when he saw her awkward and sullen expression, he subconsciously pushed it over. When he came back to his senses, it was already too late. His mind suddenly flashed with Xiao Su's words today. Is that so? This prince's good friend, who usually doesn't reveal his true feelings, is always gentle and courteous no matter if he is facing evil officials, honest officials, or good citizens. But just a few days ago, he rarely revealed his true nature. The other party is even a young girl. This really makes this prince curious. Could it be that our humble and gentle Lord Lin has changed his personality? His good friend's words made Lin Fengyi suddenly remember that something was wrong with him recently. Logically speaking, he had always treated everyone and everything rationally and rarely did anything out of the ordinary. For example, when he encountered an assassination attempt a few days ago, he didn't show any emotion on his face, but he quietly dealt with the mastermind behind the scenes. Lin Fengyi narrowed his eyes slightly. If he wanted to go far on the path of an official, he had to abandon these emotions that were out of the ordinary. Thinking of this, he put one hand behind his back and his expression was somewhat calm. When Li Hu returned, his footsteps quickly returned to being calm and unhurried. A lifetime of marriage, tied in a lifetime. The red string was messy, but still clear. 1,000 miles of marriage, tied by a single thread. When Lin Fengyi and his servants' silhouettes disappeared into the crowd, a white figure leisurely walked over. 2 golden boys and girls followed her on her left and right. Although they were half a step behind, if one looked carefully, one could see that the 2 of them were protecting the person in front of them. They avoided the passers-by and formed a small protective circle. "Tanning, the place you mentioned before where the Shuexin lipstick appeared was here." The woman in white walking in front was wearing a bamboo hat. A white veil hung down to cover her face. Her appearance couldn't be seen clearly, but her voice was graceful and languid, like a willow branch slowly stretching its body in the spring sun. Her pure white clothes were embroidered with 1 or 2 jasmine flowers. At a glance, she looked fresh and beautiful. The girl on the left smiled and replied, "Our people said that they saw it here. The information is correct." The woman in white nodded slightly. Then, the sound of pearls and jade colliding could be heard. Under the sunlight, through the thin white veil, it seemed like the blue pearls hidden inside could be seen. "It seems that the little girl back then was in Jiangnan," the woman in white said. The woman in white said. Her voice was very pleasant to the ears, and the listeners could almost imagine the faint smile on her face. "Should be. After all, our people have searched for so long and didn't see the lipstick again. I'm afraid only she has this thing," the boy on the right continued. "I hope this trip to Jiangnan won't disappoint me." The woman in white's voice was very faint. Soon, the 3 figures disappeared into the crowd. Chapter 763. Time flew by. Half a month had passed since Yen Luo and the others left for Liancheng. Chu Qingyan had also been lying in bed for half a month. She felt as if grass was growing on her head. However, it wasn't easy for a broken bone to heal so quickly. After all, it would take 100 days to heal a broken bone. 100 days, 100 days. Therefore, under Ethereal's repeated orders and Xiao Su's exhortations, she could only lie in bed like this. Fortunately, her parents and little troublemaker often came to talk to her. Oh, and there was also a Tsundere gerfalcon. At this time, Bai Yutang and the others were staring at the gerfalcon. However, the gerfalcon didn't seem to care about them at all. Instead, it looked at little troublemaker warily. Little troublemaker lay next to Chu Qingyan's hand and looked very docile. However, it looked at the gerfalcon with a hostile gaze. Chu Qingyan was holding a book and watching the scene in front of her. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. When she laughed inadvertently, the gerfalcon immediately rolled its eyes. It slowly walked to the bedside like the king of Buddha Mountain and paid a routine visit. After it was done, it walked to the soft couch at the side and sat on it with difficulty. Then, it continued to look at little annoyance with hostility. Chu Qingyan didn't know whether to laugh or cry every time she saw its posture. However, she had to admit that the gerfalcon's recovery ability was very strong. It could survive such a serious injury and escape last time. After it came back, it lay in the house for a few days and started to run around again. For example, it came to report to her every day. "Ha, Kai, Daddy is here for an animal convention." His voice reached her before he even arrived. Chu Qingyan could imagine her father walking in with a kitten in his left hand and a kitten in his right hand. Sure enough, Chu Machen's father walked in like an adorable kid. However, before the gerfalcon's gaze could reach them, the 2 kittens screamed and struggled to jump away. Her father only had time to look back and see the kittens disappear. Then, he said to his daughter in disappointment, "Flower 1 and Flower 2 are so timid." As soon as he finished speaking, gerfalcon, glutinous rice ball, and the others sneered. In front of the Wolf King and Eagle King, it would be strange if they didn't piss their pants. Chu Qingyan held her forehead and said with a headache, "Father, there are hawks and wolves in the room. It would be strange if Hua Hua and the others weren't afraid. Don't bring them in again, or they won't play with you." Mr. Chu nodded, then walked in and explained, "Daddy, I just want them to coexist peacefully and play together." Who knew that Floey 1 and Floey 2 were so afraid of Little Hai and Little Annoyance? Chu Qingyan shrugged. It can't be helped. The law of survival in the animal kingdom is that the strong and the weak are always different. Little Annoying, Glutinous Rice Ball, and the others, you're dreaming if you want the Wolf King clan to play with the cats. Gerfalcon, Foolish Humans. Chu Qingyan's gaze fell on Glutinous Rice Ball and the others who were playing with a small ball of string in the room. She still found it hard to believe. If Big Ice Cube hadn't told her that these were snow wolves, she would have thought that they were just ordinary dogs. She wouldn't have guessed that they had such a noble background. Snow wolves were cruel and arrogant by nature. This was the explanation she had read in ancient books. However, these few were rolling on the ground and playing with the string. What the hell was with them? This simply made her eyes pop out of their sockets. However, Chu Qingyan didn't know that these few were only like this in front of her. If they were in front of outsiders, they would be different. Therefore, in the quiet afternoon, Mr. Chu played around with the few animals, she read a book, Little Annoyance glared at Gerfalcon, and Gerfalcon glared at Little Annoyance. Glutinous Rice Ball and the others were jumping around and playing. Sometimes, Chu Qingyan thought that this was the most peaceful time of her life. However, there were some people who were destined to live their lives in the midst of bloody battles. Sometimes, peace and tranquility were just a smokescreen before the storm. When Xiao Su walked into the room, he saw the big lanterns and small lanterns sitting, lying, or rolling around in his Ian's room as usual. His face instantly turned ugly. Little Annoyance and the others smelled Xiao Su's scent, and their snowy fur stood on end. Gerfalcon narrowed its eyes and glared at him. Another bad guy who was trying to steal their master. As soon as Xiao Su stepped through the door, Bai Yutang and Glutinous Rice Ball gave up on the little fur ball, howled, and pounced on Xiao Su. Xiao Su leaned to the side, dodging Bai Yutang's attack. He raised his foot and aimed at Glutinous Rice Ball. Bai Yutang fell to the ground, turned around, and jumped up, while Glutinous Rice Ball quickly changed its direction and jumped up with the help of his boot. This was the moment Xiao Su had been waiting for. He quickly reached out with both hands and accurately grabbed their necks. Bai Yutang and Glutinous Rice Ball didn't expect to be subdued in one move again. They kicked the floor furiously, howling and whimpering. Xiao Su didn't even frown. He turned around and threw them out of the door. The two flipped in the air and landed on the limestone floor. They turned around and howled at Xiao Su, but there was nothing they could do. After all, he was stronger than them. Little Annoyance straightened its back, looked at Xiao Su with its noble blue eyes, and slowly walked out of the door. Snowflake Cake, on the other hand, skipped toward its brothers. After Little Annoyance and the others left, Xiao Su's gaze fell on Gerfalcon. Gerfalcon felt the threatening gaze and couldn't help but lower its head to look at its wings. It hadn't recovered yet, so it had to endure it first. A wise man submits to circumstances. Gerfalcon jumped off the soft couch and walked slowly. When it passed by Xiao Su, it rolled its eyes at him for free. When Gerfalcon was far away, Chu Qingyan finally couldn't help but burst into laughter. Ha 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 ha, this had already become her daily joke. Father Chu had already gone out to play. Xining closed the door, leaving only Chu Qingyan and Xiao Su in the room. When he heard the little girl's laughter, Xiao Su raised his eyebrows slightly. Is it that funny? Chu Qingyan immediately shut her mouth, but her wide grin betrayed her. Xiao Su walked toward her step by step. He was already a little depressed from being disturbed, and now she was making fun of him. Xiao Su felt that it was time to punish her. So when the black shadow attacked, Chu Qingyan looked up belatedly. Her chin was already in a certain someone's fingers, and then her red lips were captured. Finally, she fell. This position was very suitable for hugging and kissing, and the effect was especially good. In the end, Chu Qingyan could only bury her head in his chest and gasp for breath. Xiao Su's lips curved into a satisfied smile. He knew that she was thin-skinned, so he didn't tease her anymore. At this time, there was a knock on the door. What is it? Xiao Su said indifferently. Master, the Hua family sent a message saying that something has happened at Hibiscus Pavilion. Hua Ling's voice came from outside the door. Although he knew that his master disliked being disturbed when he was alone with the young princess, this was an urgent matter, so he couldn't care less. What? Chu Qingyan was shocked. Chapter 764. Something happened at Hibiscus Pavilion? Chu Qingyan subconsciously looked towards Xiao Su, but the latter gave her the same confused look. Xiao Su held her hand and said in a deep voice, Don't panic, let's see what's going on first. Hearing his words, Chu Qingyan calmed down and nodded slightly. Xiao Su turned towards the door and said, "Let the messenger come in." Very soon, a blue-clothed manservant followed Hualing in, his expression very anxious. "Ah Fu, what happened?" Chu Qingyan recognized this person as the servant who always followed Hua Xiao and asked immediately. Ah Fu did not dare to delay and anxiously said as soon as he saw them, "Young Master Chu, someone came to the shop this morning and said that there's a problem with our products, causing someone in their family to have an allergic reaction and almost disfigured. Now, they're causing trouble at our door and are refusing to leave. They've attracted a lot of commoners and it looks like the situation is getting worse." Chu Qingyan frowned. How could this be? Our products don't have any problems at all. They don't contain any chemicals and the ingredients are all natural. It can be used on any skin type. This servant doesn't know either. When this happened, my family's young master happened to be discussing business with someone and couldn't leave. He sent this servant to the shop to find out what happened. Young master said that if the shopkeeper couldn't solve it, he should come and find you. This servant saw that the shop was completely surrounded and the people causing trouble were very big. This servant didn't dare to delay and immediately came to find you, Ah Fu said anxiously. Chu Qingyan did not panic and asked a few questions in detail. Although Ah Fu looked anxious, he answered all of them. "So, they refused to let us find a doctor for them?" Chu Qingyan grasped the key point. "Yes, because they were accompanied by a famous doctor in the city. That doctor said that the woman had an allergic reaction after using our continuation product. Her head was swollen like a pig's head, and it was incurable now. Therefore, with that doctor around, the shopkeeper couldn't find another doctor because no one in the city had better medical skills than that doctor. As a result, many customers directly stopped buying, and some even prepared to return the goods. Young Master Chu, if this goes on, it will greatly affect the reputation of our products," Fu said in detail. This matter was very serious. As long as this crime was confirmed, the continuation product would be thrown into a quagmire. It would be impossible to make a comeback. Xiao Su listened from the side. After understanding the ins and outs of the matter, he faintly had an answer in his heart. He could not help but frown slightly. However, the little fellow was discussing with others, so it was not convenient for him to speak. "Fire spirit, where is Ethereal?" After pondering for a moment, Chu Qingyan immediately turned to look at Hualing. Hualing replied, "Ethereal has been researching medicine in the pharmacy for the past 2 days, so he should still be there at this time." "Alright, Hualing, bring Fu to find Ethereal. Have Ethereal make a trip to the Hibiscus Pavilion and personally treat that customer. I don't feel at ease with that doctor." Chu Qingyan felt that there was something fishy going on here. "Yes." Hualing knew that this matter was urgent, so he did not delay and left with Fu. Xiao Huan and the others were not here and sleeves were tied up. There was no one in the Hibiscus Pavilion that could take charge of the situation. Chu Qingyan felt her head hurt when she thought about it. She placed her hands on the sides and prepared to get up. But when she moved, a pair of hands pressed down on her and a disapproving voice sounded from above her head, "Your body hasn't recovered yet, so you can't move around. Could it be that you want to lie in bed for the rest of your life?" In Xiao Su's eyes, there was nothing more important than her health. Chu Qingyan was discouraged. "Then what do we do? If this matter isn't resolved, there will be a lot of problems in the future. My efforts will be ruined." She felt very frustrated. This feeling of not being able to move and not being able to ask for help was very uncomfortable. She had worked so hard to build up her brand, but was it going to be destroyed by someone like this? She was very unwilling. "The fire hasn't even reached your eyebrows and you're already panicking?" Xiao Su shook his head and reminded her. She knew that she was being too agitated, but at this time, how could she calm her heart down? "Big ice cube, I don't want to, but I'm too worried." She pursed her lips and revealed a distressed expression. At this time, she found a very important problem. It was that there were very few people by her side that she could use. Xining's personality was not strong enough. She could deal with the matters in the house, but when it came to urgent matters, she was still lacking. Xiao Huan had been sent out by her and Jean Xian's duties were not here. Su Yi and the others were also the same. At this time, other than being anxious and angry, what else could she do? Xiao Su knew that she was anxious and reached out his hand to pat her little head. This matter didn't come out earlier or later, but appeared when you guys were at the peak of your power and no one was around. Think about it carefully, don't you think it's strange? Xiao Su deliberately lowered his voice at this time, like the murmuring of flowing water. It carried a sense of peace and slowly drove away her anxiety. Chu Qingyan seriously thought about his words. I also felt that it was strange just now. Could it be that someone wants to suppress us? That's possible. Xiao Su nodded. I was injured and wasn't around. I sent Xiao Huan away. Coincidentally, Xiao Si was discussing business and then the matter happened. Chu Qingyan pursed her lips and her gaze darkened. It's really a coincidence that it happened when no one was in charge. Xiao Su nodded again. The little fellow had not fainted from anxiety and her thoughts were still very clear. So you're saying that Xiao Si might have been deliberately delayed by someone, so that she wouldn't be able to deal with it? Chu Qingyan's eyes flashed. If this is a trap, then it's probably the case. Chu Qingyan immediately called out, Su Yi. This subordinate is here. Su Yi, who was guarding outside, immediately walked in. Bring some people to find Xiao Si right now. No matter what she's doing or who's holding her back, bring her to Hibiscus Pavilion. It's urgent. Yes. Su Yi accepted the order and quickly walked out. After Su Yi left, Chu Qingyan leaned on Xiao Su's body, feeling a little tired. Because she had lost too much blood in the past few days, coupled with the recent special period, she often felt weak all over. This time, let's take a gamble and see if someone is plotting against us behind our backs. Xiao Su rubbed her head. Seeing her haggard expression, he felt a little heartache. If Xiao Si can make it in time, it'll be best if she can deal with it successfully. If she can't, then we can only blame ourselves for being unlucky. I hope it's not a trap set up by someone. If I find out that someone is playing tricks behind our backs, I definitely won't let them off. Chu Qingyan said coldly. Although she was a merchant and could not avoid some despicable methods, she disdained this kind of framing the most. There's no need to be polite to this kind of person. Xiao Su hugged her in his arms, his tone exactly the same. Chu Qingyan nodded. If Xiao Si is really being held back by something, then I've let her down. But I don't regret it. At most, I'll just go back and apologize to her and make amends. At this time, she couldn't move, so she could only make things difficult for Xiao Si. She hoped that her efforts would not be in vain. Chapter 765. Although she felt sleepy and Xiao Su tried to persuade her a few times, Chu Qingyan still insisted on waiting for the news. However, she let him go first. She knew that he still had a lot of things to deal with and didn't want to delay him. 2 hours later, the person who came back was not Su Er and the others who came to inquire about the news, but Hua Xiaoli. As soon as she saw Hua Xiaoli, Chu Qingyan's eyes lit up. She straightened up and immediately asked, "How is it?" Hua Xiaoli sat down on a chair and fanned herself with her sleeves. She gasped for air and said, "Let me drink some water first. I'm so thirsty." Xining served her tea at the right time. After Hua Xiaoli took a big gulp, she relaxed her tone. She wiped the sweat on her forehead and looked at Chu Qingyan, who had a worried expression. "I knew you would be anxious, so I rushed over. I was afraid that the servants wouldn't be able to explain it clearly and make you worry for nothing." Although Hua Xiaoli was sweating profusely, she didn't look sad at all. Chu Qingyan was slightly relieved and let her take a breath. "There's no hurry. Take your time." Hua Xiaoli nodded. At this time, she began to explain what happened today. I know that Ah Fu came to you today to ask for help, but he hasn't been to Hibiscus Pavilion recently, so he doesn't know what happened in Hibiscus Pavilion recently. Let me analyze it. Today, there was a woman who brought her family to the shop and made a scene. She said that our products contain toxins that are harmful to the human body, causing her to be poisoned and allergic. There was also the testimony of a famous doctor in the city, as if to prove that we are guilty of murder for money. Moreover, they chose the busiest time of the day to come, attracting countless onlookers who didn't know the truth. The matter suddenly became big. However, the shop checked the purchase record and found that she bought it half a month ago. If she was allergic, she would have been allergic long ago. It wouldn't have been delayed until now. Things are fishy. I originally planned to go to Hibiscus Pavilion today, but suddenly, a guest came to our house and said that he wanted to discuss business with us. I was asked to stay by my father. Coincidentally, when the incident happened, I was pestered by the guest and could not get away. I could only let Ah Fu go first. Fortunately, you sent Ethereal to treat her, but the woman was guilty and refused to let Ethereal feel her pulse. Later, when you sent someone to tell me the seriousness of the situation, I immediately rushed over. This is obviously a well-designed scam. I said I didn't treat her and sent people to ask Ah Fu to treat her. That family had no choice but to let Ethereal treat her. I have to say that your people are really skilled. That woman was poisoned because she ate a mutually reinforcing food. Once the medicine was applied, it immediately took effect. Speaking of this, Hua Xiao let out a long sigh. She said to Chu Qingyan, actually, this kind of thing is not uncommon in my business. But often, this kind of method can easily destroy a shop. If we didn't stop it in time today, I'm afraid that if it worsened, the consequences would be unimaginable. Hearing that the crisis was resolved, Chu Qingyan's heart, which was in the air, calmed down a little. What happened in the end? I sent people to send them to the officials. This is obviously a frame-up. But they ran away halfway. Hua Xiao said angrily, Qingyan, you don't know. The person who said that he wanted to do business with my family simply appeared out of thin air. Our Hua family has been in business for many years, and no one has dared to go against us so blatantly. Hearing what you said, it really feels like someone is plotting. Then, did you find any clues? Chu Qingyan's expression became serious. Before I could investigate, those people ran away when they saw that the situation was not good. But I already have a suspect. Hua Xiao clenched her fist and said angrily. Who? The Qin family. Didn't the Qin family send people to buy a lot of our products before? At that time, we even discussed that he might want to research the ingredients and make it himself. Maybe he couldn't research it later, so he came up with this kind of despicable method to destroy us. If he can't get something, no one else can. I heard him say this before. And once the continuation products appear, the Qin family's business will be hit the hardest. So, I dare to conclude that it's his dirty trick. The more Hua Xiao said, the angrier she became. She drank another mouthful of water to suppress her anger. Chu Qingyan heard her and thought for a moment. Xiao Li, we don't have any evidence now. Let's not jump to conclusions. Hua Xiao Li took a deep breath and nodded. We can send people to pay close attention to the Qin family's movements. Also, we can secretly investigate the whereabouts of that family and that businessman. If we can follow the clues to find the person behind the scenes, then it will be even better. Chu Qingyan said in a deep voice. Qingyan, what you said is very reasonable. Let's follow your method. If it were me, I would fight the Qin family to get justice. Xiao Li, you are too impulsive. You have more business experience than me. Why are you so impulsive? Hua Xiao Li touched her head and was a little ashamed. Actually, it's fine usually. It's just that I can't control my temper when it comes to the Qin family. Why? Could it be that you have some other relationship with the Qin family besides your rivalry with them? Chu Qingyan asked curiously. Chu Qingyan just asked casually, but Hua Xiaoli nodded seriously. It can be said that we have a deep hatred. Chu Qingyan was slightly surprised. This is... Hua Xiao shook her head and looked disgusted. Forget it, let's not talk about it. Anyway, we are irreconcilable with them. Chu Qingyan knew that this might involve the secrets of the two families, so she didn't ask any more questions. Let's not talk about this matter. You are injured and should recuperate. Don't worry. I'll transfer an experienced manager from another shop to help you. We'll talk about it when Yen Luo and the others come back. Hua Xiaoli tidied her hair and found that her clothes were wrinkled because she had rushed all the way, so she tidied up as she spoke. This proposal solved Chu Qingyan's urgent problem, so she readily agreed. That's right, I have something to tell you. Hua Xiaoli suddenly smiled and winked mysteriously at Chu Qingyan. Chu Qingyan's eyes curved into crescents. Let's hear it. At this moment, in a splendid palace thousands of li away, faint incense smoke was rising in spirals. The entire palace hall was filled with a refreshing fragrance. However, the main seat of the palace hall was surrounded by a dense atmosphere that made people afraid to breathe. You're saying that Su-er has been bewitched by that vixen? The speaker's posture was graceful and elegant, but his tone was very harsh. This subordinate doesn't dare to say. However, His Highness has clearly refused to return to the capital. The guard kneeling on the ground lowered his head. Empress Liang gave a cold humph. Don't think that this consort doesn't know that he's protecting that vixen, Chu Qingyan, just because this consort is in the capital and far away from the emperor. For her sake, he even dared to go against this consort in public. He wasn't even willing to send troops when he requested. In the past, he wouldn't have disobeyed this consort's orders. Your Imperial Highness, please don't be angry. If you get angry, others will be pleased. Luo Yun handed over a cup of tea. That's right. Otherwise, I'll let consort you have it easy. Empress Liang took a deep breath to suppress her anger, then took the teacup. Your Imperial Highness, if you want to deal with Chu Qingyan, this servant has an idea. Luo Yun bowed slightly. Oh. Tell me about it. Empress Liang raised her brows as a light flashed through her eyes. Chapter 766. Looking at Hua Xiao's expression, Chu Qingyan was also interested. What's the matter? Tell me. I've been confined to this room recently, and I'm about to get sick. After Chu Qingyan finished speaking, she asked Xi Ning to bring over a small table and prepare some pastries and tea so that the two of them could chat. Hua Xiao didn't keep her guessing and said directly, Do you remember Miss Hua Yu? How can I not remember? Miss Hua Yu's beauty is unforgettable, and she's a rare talented woman. Chu Qingyan didn't understand why she mentioned this person, but she still seriously thought about it before replying with a smile. Hua Xiao chuckled, What I want to say is related to Miss Hua Yu. She helped us do a lot of publicity. I took the time to treat her to a meal a few days ago to thank her. At the dinner, she learned that you were injured, so she wanted to come and visit you immediately. I said that it was inconvenient for you to meet guests because of your injury, and I would bring her to visit you another day. Chu Qingyan didn't think it was inappropriate. Don't forget your identity. If she comes and sees that you're a girl, won't she be exposed? Hua Xiao reminded her when she saw that she didn't understand. You're right. You're so considerate. Chu Qingyan agreed. Hua Xiao chuckled again, but I promised to bring her to visit you tomorrow. Chu Qingyan twitched her mouth, Can't you finish your words at once? I didn't know she would be so persistent. If she hadn't asked someone to send me an invitation 2 days ago and mentioned this matter, I would have almost forgotten about it. Hua Xiao's face said that she didn't blame her. Chu Qingyan facepalmed. There were 2 things about Lady Hua Yu that left the deepest impression on her. One was her guqin, and the other was the sachet embroidered with multicolored butterflies that she had asked her servants to deliver. The most important thing was not the sachet, but that when she sent it, her vinegar jar bumped into her, causing her to suffer a double loss. Forget it. You can bring her over tomorrow. She has good intentions. I can't reject the concern of others. She didn't have a problem with Miss Huayu, but she was afraid that she would make Big Ice Cube unhappy again. Big Ice Cube looked like he didn't care about anything, but as long as it involved the people or things around him, he would be very calculative. Hua Xiu chuckled. Qing Yan, let me give you a heads up. Huayu seems to be planning to turn over a new leaf. Your performance at the Ming Man building back then seemed to have made her treat you differently. Don't say, oh. She's still a girl. If word of this gets out, it won't be good for her reputation. Chu Qingyan glared at her. Huayu is bold and won't care about these things. Also, I'm only telling you because I want you to be careful, Huayu said as she bit into the plum blossom cake. Chu Qingyan had a headache. I know. Even food can't stop you from talking. Eat slowly. I know you like these things, so I prepared a lot of xining. Hua Xiu nodded in satisfaction. Then, she asked, by the way, when I came in just now, I think I saw something fly out of your room. What a big lump. Chu Qingyan's smile froze. Xiao Hai was in the room just now. When she heard the noise, she immediately asked it to go out. She didn't expect it to be discovered. You must have seen wrongly. It was probably the shadow of the tree outside the window. Hua Xiuli rubbed his eyes, pretending to be serious. Maybe I'm really too busy. I also remembered something. I found that the guards around you seem to be trained. They're different from the usual bodyguards. What's your background? When she said the last sentence, Hua Xiu's tone became serious. She was smiling, but there was a deep inquiry in her eyes. Chu Qingyan felt the change in her tone and smiled faintly. What kind of background could I have? Hua Xiu rubbed her eyes again and smiled. If you don't want to say, then forget it. Who doesn't have a secret? Well, I have to clean up the other mess. I'll gladly accept this cake. After saying that, she got up and left. Chu Qingyan asked Xining to send her off. Seeing Hua Xiu's figure disappear outside the door, Chu Qingyan breathed a sigh of relief. At this time, the gerfalcon, who was hiding under the window, reluctantly got up. It flapped its wings and jumped in. Its face was very unhappy. It was a majestic king. How could it be so shameful? Perhaps because they had been together for a long time, Chu Qingyan and the gerfalcon had a strange connection. She could feel its thoughts and couldn't help but smile. Although Hua Xiu was a wealthy merchant, she was still a commoner. There were many things that she couldn't let her know. However, Chu Qingyan had to admit that Hua Xiu was very sharp. She could sense that her identity wasn't what it appeared to be. However, although Hua Xiu was a partner and they could talk well, she couldn't reveal her identity yet. This was an eventful period. It was better to be cautious. Chu Qingyan waved at the gerfalcon. It walked over unhappily. Chu Qingyan smiled and stroked its head. What do you want to eat today? Dried meat or shrimp? The gerfalcon's eyes lit up. Chaoyang Palace. Luo Yun looked around and smiled. Your Majesty, 9th Miss Chu was betrothed to His Highness by the retired emperor. Although she was young at the time, 5 years have passed. His Highness is now 20 years old. It's time for him to have children. Continue. Empress Liang narrowed her eyes. Although 9th Miss Chu is already 15 years old, she's not of marriageable age yet. His Majesty also hasn't put His Highness's marriage on the agenda yet. It's likely that the wedding date is still up for discussion. However, men of His Highness's age should already have children. To think that His Highness has put in so much effort for the country and the people, yet he's still all alone. This servant's heart aches for His Highness every time this servant thinks about it. Luo Yun picked up a handkerchief to wipe the corners of her eyes. Empress Liang understood the meaning behind her words and comforted her. This consort is also very worried about his marriage and children. In the past, people said that he was a jinx and was a jinx to his wife. He's ruined many marriages. But ninth Miss Chu has been perfectly fine ever since the imperial edict was issued, so this servant feels that His Highness has already broken this destiny. Luo Yun's voice was filled with joy. When Empress Liang heard this, she felt that these words touched the bottom of her heart. She couldn't help but smile. You're right. How can Chu Qingyan take care of Su, all by herself? It's better to choose a few women for Su, who are considerate so that His Majesty can hold an imperial grandchild sooner. However, this consort is in a difficult position. When Luo Yun saw this, she smiled and said, Your Majesty, I heard that there are quite a few young ladies in the Liang family who have reached the age of marriage. Does Imperial Uncle have any plans? Empress Liang understood tacitly and patted her hand. A shrewd light flashed through her eyes. As expected of someone who has followed this consort for so many years. You're the only one who knows how to untie this consort's knot in her heart. Luo Yun bowed. It's this servant's duty to share master's burdens. Good, very good. Chapter 767. The next day. The weather was good and the sun was shining brightly. Chu Qingyan narrowed her eyes as she looked outside the window. Then she said casually, Big Ice Cube, you don't have to stay in the room with me every day. I heard that the peach blossoms in Jiangnan are more beautiful than those in the capital. You can take Huoling and the others out for a walk. Xiao Su, who was sitting at the side and reading documents, didn't even raise his head. He said, the peach blossoms all look the same. What's there to see? So emotionless. Chu Qingyan secretly complained in her heart. But she didn't give up. Even if you don't want to see the peach blossoms, you can still try the delicacies. Yesterday, I heard from the servants that there's a tofu pudding shop on North Street that's very delicious. If you get someone to buy it, it won't taste good when it gets cold. Take Turin and the others out to try it. Otherwise, people will say that you're an emotionless master. Xiao Su's hand paused. He raised his head to look at her. You mean that they told you that I'm emotionless? Chu Qingyan quickly waved her hands. No, they didn't say that. Then you think that I'm emotionless? Xiao Su raised his eyebrows. Chu Qingyan immediately shook her head. She rolled her eyes as she thought of a reason. Of course not. I just think that it's boring for them to be cooped up in the house all day. When we were training, we were in seclusion in the valley for half a year to a year. They didn't dare to say that it was boring. Xiao Su retracted his gaze and continued to focus on the documents in his hands. Chu Qingyan saw that he was indifferent and felt a little anxious. In another 2 hours, Hua Xiu would bring Hua Yu over. If Big Ice Cube saw Hua Yu, she didn't know what he would think. She wasn't afraid that Big Ice Cube wouldn't give Hua Yu face. She was afraid that after Hua Yu left, she would be the one in a miserable state. Although Hua Yu was a woman, when she thought about how he made her unable to resist in the alley, she felt her scalp tighten. More importantly, she didn't want Big Ice Cube to worry about these people who didn't want to do it. So she had to send Big Ice Cube away before Hua Yu arrived. Thus, she continued to work hard. Big Ice Cube, actually, I feel that Huoling and Turin have been by your side for so many years and have always been cautious and conscientious. Sometimes, you have to reward them. Although you usually reward them a lot, sometimes you have to show some concern, right? Huoling, Turin, please forgive me. This is the only way I can think of right now. Xiao Su thought about it and felt that what the little fellow said was quite reasonable. Then I'll give them a day off today. Chu Qingyan's eyes widened. This was not the result she wanted. What about you? I have something important to do. Chu Qingyan swallowed her saliva. It was over. She didn't know what to say. At that moment, she heard the sound of him flipping through the pages, and he said something unhurriedly. They're not you, so why should this prince play with them? Chu Qingyan automatically translated it in her heart. What it meant was, the person I want to play with is you, they can play by themselves. To be honest, when Chu Qingyan heard this, she was truly moved. She also sighed with emotion. Big Ice Cube's ability to speak words of love was increasing day by day. What made her even happier was that he didn't feel like he was speaking words of love at all. This kind of feeling was too sweet. It's rare to have a chance like this. Let's admire the flowers, eat some good food, and relax. Although she was moved, she still stood her ground. She couldn't be bewitched by the enemy. Xiao Su felt that if he didn't solve this matter, she would talk for an entire day. He simply put down the document and placed his hands on the table, calmly looking at her. Chu Qingyan didn't know why he was looking at her with such a serious expression. She felt a little apprehensive, so she touched and pinched here and there, but she didn't dare to look at him directly. Actually, she felt a little guilty. Xiao Su coughed lightly before saying, "What I want to see and eat is the same if it's not someone I care about by my side. Do you think that I would make a special trip just because I want to eat a bowl of food or see a flower?" Chu Qingyan didn't know how to react. "When you're better, I'll bring you to see and eat whatever you want to eat. Right now, I feel that the most relaxed thing is having you by my side, so don't let your imagination run wild." After Xiao Su said this, his gaze fell deeply on her body, then he looked away. The subtext was, "What I want to do the most right now is to quietly stay with you." Chu Qingyan felt that she had inadvertently received a serious confession from the Big Ice Cube. How unexpected. She was so pleasantly surprised. "Big Ice Cube, come here." Xiao Su didn't suspect anything. He got up and walked to the front of the couch. He reached out and touched her hand to make sure that she wasn't cold. He then wanted to ask if she wanted to drink some water, but she hugged him. Chu Qingyan hugged his waist, overjoyed. "Big Ice Cube, I like you so much. I like you so much." Xiao Su was stunned by her sudden confession. He hadn't expected it at all. But when he came back to his senses, he had already bent down and stared at her moist eyes. His Adam's apple bobbed slightly. "What did you say just now?" "Say it again." Just now, she had said it on a whim and couldn't suppress her excitement. Now that the Big Ice Cube was looking into her eyes so seriously, Chu Qingyan felt a wave of heat rush from her neck to her cheeks, all the way to the top of her head. She immediately wanted to bury herself in his arms like an ostrich. Unfortunately, it was rare to hear such an undisguised confession from her. How could Xiao Su let it go so easily? He touched her face with his fingertips. Her white and tender cheeks were stained with a red blush. It was very tempting. He slowly lowered his head, wanting to take the pink territory for himself. Just as he was about to touch the gorgeous peach blossoms, a loud shout broke the pink bubble that had just emerged from the two of them. "Chu Qingyan, I've brought Miss Huayu here." Although the footsteps were still far away, this loud voice, Chu Qingyan swallowed her saliva subconsciously. "Oh no, he's here." Xiao Su paused. The deep affection in his eyes suddenly disappeared. He looked at her playfully. "Just now, you tried to make me go out. Was it because of this?" Chu Qingyan did not dare to underestimate her big ice block's intelligence at all. With just one sentence, he had already pieced together most of what she had just said. She felt like burying her head into a crack in the ground. He didn't need her answer. He knew the answer just by looking at her expression. Xiao Su snorted, then bent down and gently bit her lips. "Oh!" Before she could exclaim, he had already stood up. "It's just a small punishment. I'll deal with you when I come back." Xiao Su glanced at the men's clothes she was wearing today. No wonder. He tidied up his clothes and turned to leave. "Where are you going? Didn't you want me to go out?" Chu Qingyan swallowed her saliva. She didn't care about the burning pain on her lips. Looking at his back, she felt a sense of annoyance. Chapter 768. Chu Qingyan, why do you look like you're half dead? Because Hua Xiu often came to visit, the servants did not stop her. She walked in casually. Chu Qingyan did not want to pay attention to her at all, but when she saw the person behind her, she forced herself to stay alert. Didn't you say you'll be here in 2 hours? Why are you so fast? She was not prepared at all, and her thoughts were exposed. Thinking of the look in Big Ice Cube's eyes before he left, she could not help but shiver. She hoped that he would be merciful when the time came. Hua Xiu looked at the person behind him and said with a smile, Miss Hua, you came to my mansion early. I can't let her wait, so I came here directly. At this point, Hua Xiu moved closer to her and whispered into her ear, did something happen? I saw that your husband's face was very gloomy just now. Especially towards Hua Yu. He looked very unfriendly. Hua Yu, who was ignored by the two of them as soon as she came in, coughed softly when she saw Hua Xiu so close to Chu Qingyan. A strange look flashed across her eyes. Chu Qingyan glared at her, then looked at Hua Yu, who was standing in the room in a pretty pink dress. She smiled gently. Miss Hua Yu, I'm sorry to have made you come all the way here. Hua Yu walked forward with a charming smile on her face. Young Master Chu, you're too polite. Ever since we met last time, Hua Yu has a lot of admiration and respect for young Master Chu. I've always wanted to find time to discuss the zither with young Master. Unfortunately, young Master is too busy. Later on, I heard that young Master was injured. Hua Yu's gentle words contained sincere concern, making Chu Qingyan blush with shame at her previous thoughts, especially when Big Ice Cube was jealous of this innocent woman. I've made you worry, Chu Qingyan said gratefully. At this moment, Hua Yu raised her hand, and Huang Yi behind her came forward with a food box. She opened the lid and took the porcelain cup inside. Then, she looked at Chu Qingyan and said gently, I heard from Hua Xiu that there are no women in your residence, only maids, so Hua Yu took the initiative to make ginseng soup for young Master. I hope young Master won't refuse. Chu Qingyan subconsciously looked at Hua Xiu, who was standing behind Hua Yu and waving her hand innocently. There are no women in your residence, only men. But she did not ask about the men. I'm just telling the truth. Chu Qingyan was completely defeated by her. How could Hua Yu, who had been in such places for a long time, not see Chu Qingyan's troubled expression? She stepped forward and stuffed the porcelain cup into Chu Qingyan's hands. Don't stand on ceremony with Hua Yu. Drink it while it's hot, or it will turn cold. Chu Qingyan could not accept such a passionate Hua Yu. Wasn't she supposed to be as arrogant as a winter plum? How did things change so quickly? At this moment, Hua Yu turned to Hua Xiu and said, Xiu, I have something to discuss with young Master. Can you leave for a while? Hua Xiu's heart softened when she saw Hua Yu's pleading eyes. She immediately nodded. Okay. Have a good chat. After she finished speaking, she gave Chu Qingyan a look that said, good luck with women, and, good luck to you. Then, she pulled Xi Ning and left happily. Chu Qingyan's head hurt. She really wanted to see the world burn. At this time, Yellow Leaf also took the initiative to leave the room, so only the two of them were left. Miss Hua Yu, what do you want to discuss with me? I'm afraid it's not appropriate for a man and a woman to be alone in a room, Chu Qingyan said tactfully. Hua Yu covered her mouth with a handkerchief and smiled. Hua Yu is not afraid. What are you afraid of? Chu Qingyan swallowed. She was afraid. Hua Yu could see her uneasiness and smiled. Young Master, Hua Yu recently composed a song. I want to embarrass myself in front of young Master. Would young Master do me the honor? Okay. I'm in luck. Chu Qingyan heaved a sigh of relief. As long as you don't get too close, you can play the zither as much as you want. Hua Yu smiled and nodded. Then, she turned around and took the zither that Huang Yi put down. She walked to a short table and put it down. Then, she tested the sound. She gave Chu Qingyan a sweet smile, then lowered her head and played the zither. The elegant sound of the zither flowed out and filled the entire room. Chu Qingyan listened attentively. Hua Yu looked up and saw her exquisite side profile. Her face blushed slightly. Then, she lowered her head again and played seriously. The song ended. Miss Hua Yu's zither skills have reached the level of a master. Your voice can be heard for 3 days. Chu Qingyan praised from the bottom of her heart. Hua Yu was shy. Young master, you flatter me. After that, she put away the zither. Did young master hear anything from the zither? Hua Yu walked closer and looked at the person lying on the bed with anticipation. Chu Qingyan did not doubt her. She pondered for a moment before replying, I heard hope and a beautiful vision for the future. Compared to the previous song, the style is completely different. At this point, she looked at Hua Yu and said gently, your mentality has changed. I'm happy for you. Hua Yu's eyes lit up. She pinched her handkerchief and said excitedly, young master, do you know why Hua Yu has changed? Why? Because of you, young master. Hua Yu looked straight into her eyes and said word by word. Me? Chu Qingyan had a bad feeling. Hua Yu nodded firmly. Then, she said shyly, although Hua Yu has been in Ming Man Pavilion for many years, I've never met someone like young master who can understand Hua Yu's zither music. A long time ago, Hua Yu already had the capital to redeem herself. There were also people who wanted to redeem Hua Yu, but Hua Yu didn't want to. Because they weren't Hua Yu's good people. They liked Hua Yu's appearance, but how long could this happiness last? And Hua Yu was a weak woman, so she didn't dare to live alone outside. So, Hua Yu had been waiting for the fated person to appear. At this point, Hua Yu looked up at her with a burning gaze. Later, the heavens didn't let down those who worked hard. Finally, young master appeared. When Hua Yu saw young master for the first time, Hua Yu knew that you were Hua Yu's good person. Hearing this, Chu Qingyan couldn't even hold the porcelain cup in her hand. Heavens, was this a confession? A confession from a girl? Chu Qingyan was crying in her heart. It was over, she was in big trouble. Young master, do you dislike Hua Yu? Although Hua Yu has been in the brothel for many years, Hua Yu has never served anyone with her beauty. I'm still pure, Hua Yu said worriedly, her tone careful. Hua Yu, do you want me to redeem you and find a good place for you? Chu Qingyan tried to persuade her. No, Hua Yu wants to stay by young master's side and serve young master for the rest of my life. Hua Yu lowered her head. Her tone was shy, and her expression was pleasant. But at this moment, Chu Qingyan was crying in her heart. Chapter 769. At this moment, on a small road in Jiangnan, Huling, Turan, and the others followed behind their master and looked at each other. They couldn't understand why their master was suddenly in the mood to come out and play. Logically speaking, their master would only act like a normal person when the little princess Consort was present. Now that he was acting so strangely, they were a bit confused. Huling was an impatient person and couldn't help but ask, Master, where are we going? Ayan said that the peach blossoms in Jiangnan have bloomed. This prince will take you to see them, Xiao Su replied indifferently. Huling swallowed and exchanged glances with Turan. There was really something wrong with their master today. But when they arrived at the peach blossom forest, Xiao Su picked 2 peach blossoms and prepared to leave. Turan asked in surprise, Master, aren't we going to admire the flowers? Do you think it's more interesting to look at the sword manual or admire the flowers? Xiao Su asked indifferently. Of course it's the sword manual. Then why did you bring us here? Even the smart Turan couldn't understand his master's meaning. Xiao Su glanced at the peach blossoms. Do you have any objections to this prince's orders? Turan and Huling immediately shook their heads. The group walked quickly to the tofu pudding stall. Dear customers, what flavor do you want? When the old woman saw so many people, she was shocked. But when she saw that they were only looking at her tofu pudding, she immediately beamed and asked enthusiastically. What flavors do you have? Xiao Su didn't expect tofu pudding to have different flavors and was a bit depressed. We have sweet, salty, slightly spicy. Before the old woman finished speaking, Xiao Su directly said, 1 bowl of each. After the old woman finished packing, Xiao Su had someone carry it and turned to leave. Huoling and Turan stared at the tofu pudding in their hands, dumbfounded. Several question marks floated above their heads. He said he would bring them to eat delicious food. This master was lying. Xiao Su, who was walking in front, breathed a sigh of relief. Finally, he got what the little fellow liked to see and eat. He could go home now. There was an important guest in Chaoyang Palace today. Third brother, try this new spring tea. Empress Liang called out. Liang Bai took the tea from the palace maid and thanked her. He took a sip and was pleasantly surprised. These tea leaves were brought back from the neighboring country a few days ago, right? They taste really good. Empress Liang nodded. The emperor rewarded Chaoyang Palace. Third brother came at the right time today. Hearing this, Liang Bai said, it seems that His Majesty still cares a lot about the Empress. When Empress Liang heard this, her expression changed slightly. If His Majesty only rewarded Chaoyang Palace, then Ben Gong likes to hear third brother's words. However, His Majesty rewarded Consort no less than Chaoyang Palace. Hearing Empress Liang's complaints, Liang Bai didn't dare to say more and just drank more tea. Empress Liang knew her third brother's personality. He was greedy for life and afraid of death. He didn't even dare to respond to her words. He was probably afraid it would spread and implicate her. She was a bit displeased inside, but she still had a faint smile on her face. Third brother, do you know why Ben Gong called you here today? This subject doesn't know. Empress, please tell me. Liang Bai quickly put down the teacup and sat upright. Empress Liang saw his respectful attitude and felt a bit better inside. Then she looked at Luo Yun beside her. Luo Yun understood and walked forward. Brother-in-law of the Three Kingdoms, it's like this. Empress wants to pick a few people to serve His Highness. She wants to ask if brother-in-law of the Three Kingdoms has any suitable candidates. When Luo Yun finished speaking, cold sweat appeared on Liang Bai's forehead. He could hear that the Empress wanted to pick people from the Liang family. However, she didn't say it and wanted him to recommend them himself. But how could he say it? Seeing Liang Bai's reaction, Empress Liang's expression became slightly ugly. Third brother, do you have an opinion? Could it be that Su is some kind of wolf and isn't worthy of our Liang family's girls? Hearing our Liang family, Liang Bai knew that the Empress had made up her mind to pick people from the Liang family. He panicked inside. Empress, eldest highness status is noble. It's the girls who aren't worthy of eldest highness. It's good that you can think this way. Empress Liang looked coldly at him. Liang Bai discreetly wiped his cold sweat and then asked, I wonder who your highness the Empress has taken a fancy to? Empress Liang held a teacup in one hand and the lid of the teacup in the other. She tapped the lid again and again. At this time, the hall was so quiet that a pin drop could be heard. Liang Bai felt that he could hear his own heartbeat at this moment. That crisp sound seemed to be on his heart and his nerves instantly tensed up. After the pressure, Empress Liang finally put down the teacup in satisfaction. She folded her hands on her knees and said faintly, Is Jing Yatu and Bing Yatu turning 15 this year and the other turning 16? Liang Bai's face paled when he heard this. Jing Yatu and Bing Yatu were both his daughters. Empress, you can't. What do you mean? Empress Liang said with narrowed eyes. Liang Bai knew that he should not disobey, but this concerned the marriage of his two daughters. Liang Bai could only take the risk of offending her and say, Jijia, the girls that were previously betrothed to eldest highness all mysteriously died. Didi doesn't want my daughters. This third D did not respectfully call her empress and called himself Didi. It seemed that she had really pushed him to the edge. Empress Liang exhaled softly and then looked at him. 3rd D, the past is the past. Look at Chu Qingyan now. Isn't she living well? If there is trouble, Chu Qingyan will be the first. And don't worry, Jie will ensure that the two girls are safe. But, Liang Bai felt that Chu Qingyan had a tough life, but he did not dare to say it out loud. Empress Liang's expression softened slightly. She said profoundly, 3rd D, Su, will eventually reach a high position. Are you going to let the Liang family miss such a good opportunity for a marriage alliance for the sake of your two daughters? Seeing that he was still hesitating, Empress Liang continued, Xiao Ran will definitely suffer a crushing defeat this time. When the time comes, the imperial court will inevitably invite Su, to fight. When he returns victorious, we have to work harder. The position of crown prince will be Su, sooner or later. Liang Bai nodded, but he still had doubts. What Empress says makes sense. But isn't His Highness not attracted to women? How many girls in the Liang family are still of marriageable age? Although the great cause was important, he also had to consider his daughters. Empress Liang coldly sneered at him for being so short-sighted. Just because he wasn't attracted to women in the past doesn't mean that he still is now. Su, has been bewitched by Chu Qingyan recently and doesn't even listen to this consort, so this consort has to teach Chu Qingyan a lesson. Also, why do you think this consort sought you out? How can a legitimate daughter be the same as a concubine's daughter? When the time comes and this consort takes the throne, this consort will get rid of Chu Qingyan and the position of empress will be empty. Do you think it's better to directly be promoted or to choose someone else? Liang Bai came to a realization. If it was a concubine's daughter, there would be no chance of her becoming empress. Jie wanted to help the Liang family continue to be in charge of the harem. Bing Yatu and Jing Yatu are very suitable. Their personalities are gentle and virtuous. I think His Highness will like them, Liang Bai said attentively. Empress Liang nodded. It's good that you can think it through. Then when will older sister tell His Highness about this? Liang Bai asked anxiously. There's no need to say anything. Have the two girls go directly to Jiangnan tomorrow. Chapter 770. Empress Liang's decision surprised Liang Bai. After thinking about it, he couldn't help but speak his mind. Your Highness, we all know His Highness's personality. If we rashly send people over, this official is worried that he won't pay attention to Jing and Bing. The word, pay attention, was still polite. In the past, he had often thrown out the women sent by the officials to curry favor with him. It would be harder than ascending to the heavens to have him take pity on them. When he thought of his delicate daughter, Liang Bai couldn't help but sweat. He dares. Empress Liang angrily slammed the table. Liang Bai was instantly silenced. Seeing that Liang Bai had been frightened, Empress Liang sighed. You don't need to worry. Today, this one will send a few mamas to give the two girls some pointers. Chu Qingyan will be by Su-er's side. Su-er has probably already tasted the taste of love and has become enlightened. When the time comes, with these two water spirit girls, he won't have any reason to refuse. Liang Bai felt that it was reasonable and nodded repeatedly. Since there was nothing else, he left the palace. When only Empress Liang and her servants were left in the hall, Luo Yun gave a thumbs up and praised, the Empress truly has a good plan. The two misses are pure and clean, so they'll definitely be able to enter His Highness's eyes. Moreover, the mamas will send will probably be able to suppress Chu Qingyan's arrogance. When the time comes, His Highness will lose interest in her. Wouldn't it be easy to get rid of her? It's still you who understands this consort. Aside from Chu Qingyan, when the time comes, if the Liang family's girls are pregnant, whether it's Su, or leading the troops on an expedition or returning victorious, they'll be able to help the Liang family rise. When it comes to this consort's generation, the Liang family will definitely continue. Her phoenix eyes narrowed as a cold light flashed. It was already lunchtime. When Xiao Su stepped into the room, he saw the little fellow in a daze. He's gone. Hearing his voice, Chu Qingyan immediately collected her emotions and blinked as she looked towards him. He's back so soon. Fast? Don't tell me you want me to wander around outside? Xiao Su stood in front of her with his hands behind his back, his tone threatening. Chu Qingyan immediately changed the topic, not looking at him. What are you holding in your hand? Why are you carrying it behind your back? Xiao Su knew her temperament. He smiled and took out the things hidden behind his back. A peach blossom and a large pile of tofu pudding. You? Chu Qingyan was pleasantly surprised. I picked it for you when I was looking at the peach blossoms. This is for you. It's still warm. Eat it while it's hot. Xiao Su glanced at the untouched ginseng soup on the table and gave her a cold look. Before he entered the house, he had already asked Xining about Huayu. He basically knew that Huayu had come with Huayu in her sleeves. She wanted to bribe his little girl with a bowl of ginseng soup. Hee, how could she compare to his years of captivity? She was overestimating herself. Chu Qingyan first took the pink peach blossom branch and happily touched the petals on it. After playing with it, she reluctantly put it to the side. She hadn't gone out to play in a long time. She missed the flowers and trees outside too much. Then she looked at the 4 or 5 small boxes on the table and was a bit stunned. So many? I only need one. Saying this, she picked a flavor and opened it. The steam rose and the fragrance filled the air, making her want to eat. At this time, Xiao Su called Hualing over and had him take the remaining 4 boxes to distribute to his brothers. Hualing wanted to beat his chest and stamp his feet when he heard this. So His Highness had taken them out for a walk for the little princess. Knowing the truth, they wanted to cry. Drinking a mouthful of the hot soup, Chu Qingyan's eyes instantly lit up. It's delicious. Big ice cube, have a bite too. Saying this, she didn't even think as she scooped a spoonful and handed it over. Xiao Su obediently lowered his head and took it. When the other side finished eating, Chu Qingyan finally remembered a certain person's serious misophobia. She had eaten that spoon before. Xiao Su seemed to have seen through her thoughts. He used his finger to wipe the stain at the corner of her mouth and suddenly said, "Didn't I eat your saliva this morning?" When he said this, his finger carelessly brushed over her lips. Chu Qingyan's face instantly turned red. Because she remembered that bite from this morning. What saliva, can you not say that, big ice cube? Chu Qingyan was ashamed and angry. Ever since she said it, Big Ice Cube had turned into a black-bellied wolf. Paired with this face that angered both men and gods, it made people unable to control themselves. She began to miss the cold and noble Big Ice Cube when they first met. She really wasn't possessed by a love-struck fool. Xiao Su looked at the tofu pudding in her bowl seriously. In the end, Chu Qingyan could only let go of the conflict in her heart and scooped another spoonful for him. She remembered that Big Ice Cube never liked to use other people's help to do things, such as food and clothing. But just now, she understood what he was hinting at with his eyes. Hence, at this moment, he and she finished this bowl of tofu pudding one mouthful at a time. After eating, Xiao Su patted her head and said, "This is just to fill your stomach. I'll specially instruct the kitchen to cook your favorite radish for the main meal later." Chu Qingyan's hand trembled. "This is clearly your favorite radish for me to eat." Time passed quickly, just like the sand on one's fingertips, slipping through the gaps between one's fingers little by little. During this period of time, Chu Qingyan continued to lie on the bed and mold. When she had nothing to do, she would draw and draw. She would write down her business methods and philosophy and then send it to Hua Xiu for her to put into action. After the poisoning and allergy farce last time, Chu Qingyan and Hua Xiu increased their efforts to integrate the sales channels. They tried their best not to give people a chance to take advantage of them, so the continuation of the product led a stable life for a period of time. They also opened up the market in Jiangnan and attracted people from other regions to buy from them. But because the quantity was limited, the supply from Lianqing had not arrived yet. They still carried out hunger marketing, but the results were unexpected. Although she couldn't go out, Chu Qingyan had a new entertainment project. She watched Xiao Hai and the glutinous rice balls fight every day, watched Big Ice Cube get jealous of them, and occasionally watched her father play happily with them. 2 months passed just like that. Chu Qingyan calculated the time. Yan Luo and the others would return with the products in 2 days. She had almost recovered and could go to the docks to welcome them when the time came. She was a little excited at the thought of it. On this day, Hua Xiu hurriedly entered the door. Chu Qingyan was doing stretching exercises to strengthen her muscles and bones. When she saw her, she couldn't help but smile. It's so early in the morning. What's wrong? Qingyan, something bad has happened. What happened? Chu Qingyan closed her legs and put away her hands. She looked at her with a puzzled expression. A lot of soldiers suddenly stationed at the docks today. They want to check the ships coming in and out. What does this have to do with us? You don't know. Once a ship docks at the docks, it will be stopped by the soldiers. They won't let it go until 7 or 8 days later. Our ship will arrive tomorrow. If it's stopped, we won't be able to meet the delivery date that we've calculated. We won't be able to deliver the goods that we ordered previously. We'll have to pay for the breach of contract. Chapter 771. Chu Qingyan was stunned, but she quickly understood what Hua Xiuli meant. The continuation products were selling very well, but there were too few of them and the supply could not meet the demand. Therefore, she proposed a pre-order plan and informed the customer to pick up the goods. There was a rough delivery time in the agreement because they had calculated the time the cargo ship would arrive in Jiangnan and informed the customer. However, if the ship was detained this time, they would not be able to deliver the goods on time. It would be a breach of contract and cause them to suffer losses. Chu Qingyan was starting to get impatient as well. Why are there suddenly soldiers searching the area? What happened? Hua Xiuli shook her head in annoyance. I'm not sure. The news just spread today. If it weren't for the storm a few days ago, Yan Luo and the others would have arrived today. This is a little tricky. Chu Qingyan frowned. We can only wait for the ship to arrive and see what's going on. Hua Xiu nodded, but she didn't think so in her heart. She had seen Lin Fengyi's iron fist many times. To be able to send troops unexpectedly, something big must have happened. Since that was the case, once the ship arrived, they would go through the normal procedure. They wouldn't give anyone face at all. Even if you were a king or a member of the royal family, he would treat you all the same. However, she could not tell Qingyan about this matter, as it would make her worry for no reason. Don't worry, I'll go out and find out what's going on. Chu Qingyan wanted to go with her, but she declined. The reason was that Hua Xiuli did not dare to kidnap her. Otherwise, she would suffer the revenge of her iceberg. Chu Qingyan's face instantly darkened. After Hua Xiuli left, Xining came in to report that Miss Hua Yu had come to visit. Chu Qingyan facepalmed. Hua Yu was really persistent. Since she had tactfully rejected her last time, Hua Yu had pretended to be sad and left. While she was blaming herself for hurting a girl's heart, Hua Yu began to visit her every 2 to 3 days. Every time, she would bring supplements, self-made clothes, and other things. Every time on the surface, she had to insist on using all kinds of methods to decline, turn around, and appease the jealous person behind her. As a result, whenever she heard the words, flower moon, she would feel goosebumps all over her body. I won't see him. Just tell him I'm going out. Chu Qingyan quickly changed her clothes, tied up her long hair, and turned to leave. Xining hurriedly caught up with him. Master, Miss Hua Yu is coming here. You will meet her. Chu Qingyan gave her a handsome look. Who said I was going to go through the front door? Jin Xian, climb over the wall and follow me. Xining watched as her handsome master rolled up his sleeves and slipped away over the wall. People say that even if you die under a peony, you'll still be a romantic ghost, but master avoids her like a fierce tiger. Xining shook her head and then happily ran towards the woman who was coming from afar. She had to block this fierce tiger for her master. After Hua Xiaoli walked out of the house, she thought for a while and turned to walk towards the Lin mansion. She missed Hua Yu who was coming from the other side. When she arrived at the entrance of the Lin mansion, the guards saw her and did not stop her. "Miss Hua, please wait for a moment. I will report your arrival." Because Hua Xiao had cleaned up her cousin's mess, she had barged into the Lin mansion many times. Even the guards outside recognized her. Every time they saw her, she could make their strict and selfless master speechless. This made the guards have a whole new level of respect for her. Therefore, as long as she came to the Lin mansion, the guards would help her to report. Basically, their master would meet her every time. Hua Xiaoli nodded and thanked them. She knew that it was very important to build a good relationship with these guards, so she started to chat with them. She wanted to get some information about the ship from them. Unfortunately, she did not get anything. It was obvious that this operation was very secretive. Not long after, the guard who reported her came out. "Miss Hua, master said that he is not free today. Please come another day." Hearing this, she knew that he was busy. However, Hua Xiaoli did not want to waste a trip. She wanted to barge in. Anyway, she was familiar with the Lin mansion. The guard at the side seemed to have seen through her thoughts and quickly stopped her. "Miss Hua, master is very busy these days. Please don't cause trouble. But I have something important to do." Hua Xiaoli was a little anxious. Another guard thought for a while and said, "Master is going out later. Miss Hua can wait for him here." Hua Xiaoli was surprised. Okay. Sure enough, after a while, Lin Fengyi came out with a few officials beside him. Hua Xiaoli's eyes lit up and she immediately went to greet them. Lin Fengyi was talking to the officials beside him. When he saw Hua Xiaoli's figure, he stopped and gave a few instructions to let the officials come out. He stayed where he was. "Master Lin." Hua Xiaoli smiled and called out. This was the so-called, "one does not hit a smiling person." Hearing this, Lin Fengyi knew that it was not a good thing. He said calmly, "What is it?" Hua Xiaoli heard his tone and despised him in his heart. In any case, they were people who had eaten together several times, okay? "So cold. I have something to ask of you." She simply went straight to the point. Lin Fengyi glanced at her. "Your cousin committed a crime again?" Hua Xiaoli shook her head. "It's not about him. It's about the ship being detained today." When she mentioned this, Lin Fengyi's gaze became serious. "Speak." Hua Xiaoli observed his expression and said, "Our cargo ship may arrive at the dock the day after tomorrow. I want you to make an exception and let it go, okay?" Lin Fengyi refused righteously. "No, everything has to be done according to the rules." "What? You?" Hua Xiao exploded in anger. "So unreasonable. I have something urgent to do. I'll leave first." He did not have time to waste with her and wanted to leave. Before she could finish speaking, the person in question wanted to leave. How could she let him go? Without thinking, she grabbed his arm. "You can't do this. This concerns our supply and reputation." After speaking, Hua Xiaoli was afraid that he would shake her off and immediately went forward to hug his arm. Lin Fengyi did not have time to react before she hugged him tightly. This was the first time he had been so close to a woman. Even though he had bumped into her when he was eating outside in the past 2 months, and they had often shared a table to eat, he had never been so close to her. Although he didn't dislike this feeling, in public, he couldn't help but pull his hand out of her embrace. "What are you doing?" Hearing his cold snort, Hua Xiaoli's face stiffened. Then, she felt sad and indignant. She thought that they could build a friendly relationship after calling each other brothers. Who knew that he would change his attitude so quickly? Seeing that she did not speak and looked hurt, Lin Fengyi was stunned. He then looked at the officials waiting in front and said, "Wait for me to come back." "Who would wait for you to come back?" Hua Xiaoli wanted to bite him to death. Chapter 772. Chu Qingyan climbed over the wall, not knowing where she was going. But after being cooped up for several days, she was finally able to come out and breathe the outside air. For Chu Qingyan, where she was going was no longer important. "Jean Xan, let's walk around." Saying this, she casually chose a direction and started walking. Although Jean Xian's injuries were more serious than his master's, his body was still stronger than hers. After recuperating for half a month, he was already able to walk and was full of energy. Hearing his master's words, Jean Xian expressed that he had no objection, but he still remembered to remind her. "Master, although His Highness is not in the mansion, but before he left, he said that you must return home before it gets dark." Chu Qingyan had just taken a step when she almost sprained her ankle. This stinky ice cube, every time he could guess her thoughts, even when she was going out today, there was really no one else like him. I know. She was not a child. He was so strict. Although they felt that His Highness was very strict with their master, but even the subordinates could feel His Highness's deep affection for their master. In the past, they were somewhat afraid of His Highness, but now they understood that as long as they did not go against him, and did not hurt their master, His Highness was not difficult to get along with. Of course, the premise was that they were the people by their master's side, otherwise His Highness would not put them in his eyes. The so-called love me, love my dog. Therefore, His Highness would also pay more attention to them. For example, when he was injured some time ago, His Highness ordered Ethereal to prepare a lot of good tonics for him to eat. Jean Xian looked at his master who was leisurely strolling in front of him and smiled slightly. He did not regret following Chu Qingyan. The memories that were gradually recovering in his mind were forcibly suppressed by him. "Jean Xian, do you think this pearl hair clip is beautiful? If you like it, you can also pick a few." Chu Qingyan walked in front of a vendor and picked up some small ornaments. "Jean Xian did not study this kind of thing, as long as you like it." Chu Qingyan rolled her eyes at him. "Why are you so stupid? I'm asking you to pick out some men for Xining." Jean Xian was puzzled. "Why should I buy accessories for Xining?" Chu Qingyan shook her head. Forget it. You two can develop on your own. I won't interfere." After saying that, Chu Qingyan lowered her head and began to choose in high spirits. Jin Xin frowned, and his gaze fell on the colorful beaded flowers on the stall. When he saw a pink flower-like hairpin, he couldn't help but think of Xining's appearance of bearing fangs and brandishing claws, and his heart moved slightly. Chu Qingyan was distracted by him. When she saw him raise his hand to pick up a red hairpin, she secretly laughed in her heart. After visiting a few stalls, Chu Qingyan decided to go to the docks. She was worried about what Hua Xiao said today. So when she brought Jean Xian to the docks, there was a sudden commotion in front of them. At this time, two figures, one blue and one green, squeezed through the crowd. They were protecting a woman wearing a white bamboo hat and wearing a jasmine flower pattern. They suddenly rushed over. The three people's footsteps were very fast. Jean Xian prevented them from bumping into his mistress and immediately protected her behind him. The two of them retreated to the side of the road. Chu Qingyan raised her head behind Jean Xian. Coincidentally, the wind lifted the white veil, revealing a pair of smiling eyes like spring water. At that moment, Chu Qingyan seemed to see something in those eyes, but she couldn't tell for a moment. The two people looked at each other in the air and brushed past each other. "AI, how do these people walk?" The passers-by who were knocked around couldn't help but grumble. At this time, another group of people wearing black clothes quickly rushed over and knocked away the passers-by who had just stood firm. In this short moment, Chu Qingyan's eyes had already lost sight of the three people. Chu Qingyan stroked her chest, looking a little absent-minded. "Mistress, are you all right?" After the disturbance passed, Jean Xian turned around and saw his mistress's absent-minded appearance. He immediately asked worriedly. Chu Qingyan came back to her senses and waved her hand. I'm fine. I just felt that the person just now gave me a strange feeling. Jean Xian was slightly relieved when he heard this. He then said, just now, one of the 3 people was seriously injured and the other one's breathing was not stable. I reckon that he also suffered internal injuries. The group of people who chased after them just now were not weak and looked like they were well trained. Chu Qingyan was slightly surprised. Just now, her attention was on the woman in white and she didn't notice this. She inexplicably didn't want the woman in white to be injured. After the 2 of them walked for a distance, Chu Qingyan's mind was filled with that pair of watery eyes and she couldn't help but stop. Mistress? Jean Xian looked at her in confusion. Chu Qingyan turned to look at him. Jean Xian, I want to send someone to investigate. Are you talking about those 3 people? Jean Xian wasn't surprised. Chu Qingyan nodded. Just as she was about to call for Su Yi and the others to appear, her ears twitched and her lips curled slightly. It seems that she didn't need to send people to look for them. She turned around and looked at the people below the wall. She couldn't help but smile. How are the 3 of you? Under the white wall, the woman in white stood facing the wind. Beside her was a pair of golden boy and jade girl supporting each other. Your Excellency's martial arts are profound. I didn't expect you to find out so quickly. The voice was elegant, but with a lazy charm. At this moment of life and death, Chu Qingyan didn't feel any panic or fear from her voice. Although she was surprised, she was more curious. Didn't you leave from East Street? Why did you appear here? They were clearly in 2 completely different directions. After asking, Chu Qingyan faintly had an uncertain answer in her heart. To seek protection. The woman in white couldn't help but smile. Protection? You. She had never seen a person who could be so frank when asking for help. At this moment, Chu Qingyan was speechless. Although she had taken the initiative to help, but when it came from the person in question, Chu Qingyan felt a little strange. Just now when I hurriedly took a glance on the street, I felt that young master should be a kind and charitable person. You're not someone who would leave someone in the lurch. So with the mentality of giving it a try, I turned back when those thieves weren't paying attention. Aren't you worried that I'll stand by and do nothing? Chu Qingyan was shocked by her casual thoughts. Could it be that she hadn't read her fortune? The woman in white took in her expression and a trace of a smile flashed across her eyes. Young master, then are you willing to lend a helping hand or stand by and do nothing? You've already said all the good things, what else can I do? And even if I don't want to help, it's too late. They're here. As soon as she finished speaking, the fierce-looking man dressed in black appeared in the crowd. He quickly discovered the traces of their group and quickly approached them. Chu Qingyan facepalmed. Could it be that she had just recovered from her injuries and now she had to fight to practice her skills? Then in the future, would Big Ice Cube still let her out? Chapter 773. Because this was a main road, those people quickly closed in and Chu Qingyan and the rest were forced to retreat into a nearby alley. Although this alley wasn't small, the houses were dilapidated and desolate. It looked like it had been abandoned for a long time and there weren't many people coming in and out. This place was very suitable for a group fight. The leading effeminate man walked out from behind the crowd. He didn't even look at Chu Qingyan and his gaze landed on the white-robed woman. His disdain was evident in his words. Everyone says that the sect master is extremely intelligent and daunting. It's a pity that you've fallen into my hands today. Looks like you're just a so-so. I'll give you a chance to live. Don't be so stubborn. Your 2 bodyguards are already seriously injured and a wise man submits to circumstances. The moment he finished speaking, Shan Guang stood out. Don't even think of getting us to hand over the sect master unless you step over my dead body. Just as he finished speaking, Shan Guang spat out a mouthful of blood. Chu Qingyan glanced at him and saw that he was already an arrow at the end of its flight. Tanning supported Shan Guang and looked at the effeminate man with grief and indignation. The sect master has treated your Yang clan well, but who would have thought that you would rebel? We were blind back then. Water flows downwards and people walk upwards. We, the Yang clan, merely made the right choice. The effeminate man sneered coldly, not taking them seriously at all. Shan Guang, Tanning, you don't have to argue with people whose mouths can't spit out ivory. If they could understand, they wouldn't be called dogs. No, to categorize them as dogs is an insult to dogs. The white-robed woman retorted casually. Chu Qingyan chuckled. This woman's words were a little interesting. The effeminate man's face turned green and white. Because he was still a little afraid of the sect master's remaining power, when he heard Chu Qingyan's laughter, he turned his anger onto her. Where did this brat come from? Go where it's cool and don't be a hindrance here. Perhaps it was because he saw that Chu Qingyan only had one bodyguard by her side. Her clothes weren't luxurious and her expression was gentle and kind. The effeminate man thought that she was a soft persimmon and picked her to pinch. Unfortunately, this person was a wolf in sheep's clothing. His eyesight wasn't good, so he mistook the tiger for a rabbit and chose the wrong person. Chu Qingyan chuckled. I'll stay wherever I want. Besides, I think it's cooler here. Who are you? You live by the sea. What a busybody. Just now, as a bystander, he overheard the conversation between the few of them and was able to piece together a rough idea of what was going on. It was nothing more than the betrayal of the subordinates, and now, they were chasing after the original owner of the body. Hearing Chu Qingyan's answer, the woman in white looked at Chu Qingyan in surprise, a thoughtful look on her face. You stinking brat, refusing a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. The feminine man's anger surged. All right, don't be long-winded, let's fight. Chu Qingyan waved her hand indifferently, not wanting to pay attention to him. The feminine man did not expect her to take the initiative to provoke him. He was so angry that he laughed and teased his companions. There are only 2 of them, and they dare to clamor at our young Jiatong. They must be tired of living. Are you saying? Before he could finish speaking, 7 or 8 men in ordinary clothes appeared behind Chu Qingyan. Although they were wearing ordinary clothes, their bodies were filled with an aura that made people tremble. The white-clothed woman shook her head. A group of idiots. I'm sorry, there are only a few of us, so we've made a fool of ourselves. But I don't know if you'll be able to laugh later. Chu Qingyan shrugged her shoulders. The feminine man's face was very ugly. Although the other side had fewer people than them, their aura was a head above theirs. He could not hold it in any longer. Teach them a lesson for me. Su Yi and the others were already itching for a fight when they were provoking their master. At this time, they could not hold it in any longer. When they heard their master's order, they went up to meet them. In an instant, the weapons clashed and the sword flashed. The situation was undoubtedly one-sided. The battle strength of the Jiangnan fierce cavalry could completely crush them. Chu Qingyan stood to the side and nodded in satisfaction. Since the last time the Jiangnan fierce cavalry took the initiative to stay by her side, she let Su Yi go to Shuba to be her shadow guard. She also knew that they had not fought for a long time, so she let them out to practice. The feminine man did not expect that they were just used as targets for Chu Qingyan's practice. The white-clothed woman on the side looked at the chaotic battle and narrowed her eyes. Although Yang Jiatong was not her direct disciple, his martial arts were not weak in Lan manner. But now, he was being easily suppressed. She would be lying if she said she was not shocked. When she passed by Chu Qingyan, she could feel that this person's martial arts were not weak. She also had a shadow guard by her side. She just came to try her luck and asked for help. She did not expect this person to be so strong. Master, Sichuan is really a place with hidden dragons and crouching tigers. Even in Jiangnan, there is such a strong person. Tanning supported Shan Guang and her eyes did not leave the battle in front of her. The person beside the young master was actually not inferior to Lon Manor's #1 guard. This is really surprising. The white-clothed woman nodded lightly. Just as the two of them were talking, a group of people suddenly came. The person in the lead had a zombie face. This group of people seemed to be more aggressive than the feminine man's group. The battle was about to end, but now it seemed that it would not end so quickly. Chu Qingyan rubbed her fingers. She wanted to go up personally. Recently, she had not stretched her muscles and bones, so her hands were itchy. Before going up, Chu Qingyan turned to look at the white-clothed woman who was watching the battle. She was speechless. This was clearly caused by her, but now she was an outsider. She could not help but ask, "Do you want to join me?" The white-clothed woman shook her head and spread out her hands. "I will cheer for you." Chu Qingyan choked. Wasn't he a little too thick-skinned? Because of Chu Qingyan's participation, the other side lost again. The feminine man and the zombie-faced man looked at each other. They planned to negotiate with Chu Qingyan. The zombie-faced man took the initiative to stop and then said to Chu Qingyan, "This little brother, this has nothing to do with you. We will not argue with you. We will let you go." Chu Qingyan looked at them in surprise. Have you ever heard of the loser pressuring the winner to negotiate terms? When she finished speaking, Su Yi and the others did not hold back and laughed. The other side was embarrassed and was about to refute when Chu Qingyan continued. Also, this young master will definitely protect this white-clothed woman. Unless you can win against this young master's fist, otherwise, go back to wherever you want to go. Chu Qingyan returned their words. To be honest, Chu Qingyan felt a sense of pride as a hero saving a damsel in distress. The two of them looked at each other. They knew that they could not gain any advantage from Chu Qingyan. They said weakly to the white-clothed woman, "Sect Master, we will let you off this time. In less than 3 days, you will be replaced. At that time, no one will be able to save you." With that said, they left supporting each other like stray dogs. Chu Qingyan shrugged and then turned to look at the white-clothed woman. "May I ask how I should address this lady?" "This one is Chu Qingyan. Sima Jun." Chapter 774. "So it's Miss Sima. Nice to meet you." Chu Qingyan cupped her hands in greeting. "Greetings, young Master Chu." Sima Jun returned the greeting. With a wave of Chu Qingyan's hand, Su Yi and the others disappeared into the shadows. "Miss Sima, your whereabouts have already been exposed. It's best that you find a safe place to rest and recuperate." Chu Qingyan glanced at the two attendants beside Sima Jun and said with concern. In truth, Chu Qingyan had wanted to help at first, but during the battle just now, she realized that the other party's background was not to be underestimated. Moreover, this Miss Sima seemed to be an extraordinary person. With her keen sense of danger, Chu Qingyan felt that it was best for her not to get involved in this mess. Although Sima Jun gave her a subtle feeling, she could not afford to take the risk. Sima Jun saw her expression that said, "You can leave now, I won't send you off," and laughed inwardly. Then, she turned to Chu Qingyan with a worried expression. "Young master, we were chased by bandits not long after we arrived in Jiangnan. We can no longer return to the place we're staying at. Moreover, as you can see, we have 2 injured people here." Chu Qingyan's eyebrows twitched. "So, help us to the end and help us to the end. Take us in," Sima Jun said with a smile. Hearing such an elegant voice, Chu Qingyan really wanted to refuse, but she still subconsciously agreed. All right. She had really gotten herself into big trouble. She wondered if Big Ice Cube would have thoughts of killing her if he saw her bringing strangers home. To be honest, she was a little afraid. Sima Jun saw that she had reluctantly agreed and smiled even more happily in her heart. What an interesting young man. Initially, she had not wanted to drag him down with her. When she had passed by him earlier, she had sensed that there were experts protecting him. That was why she had turned back to ask him for help. However, when the two sides were fighting, she had sensed that this young man was not ordinary. He was either rich or noble. Ordinary people would not have such powerful hidden guards. Moreover, there were so many of them at once. It was clear that if she could befriend him, she might be able to protect herself. Why hasn't Miss Sima left yet? Chu Qingyan was immersed in her vexed thoughts. After taking 2 steps, she didn't see anyone following her, so she turned around and asked curiously. Sima Jun said helplessly, "I've been drugged." Chu Qingyan was surprised. She didn't feel anything strange about Sima Jun just now. Now that she felt it carefully, she found that her breathing was slightly unstable. From her words, she could guess that she had been drugged long ago. Yet, she was able to hold on until now and escape with her 2 attendants. Just how powerful was this person's martial arts? Chu Qingyan couldn't help but feel admiration and curiosity for this person. "Jean Xan, call a carriage over," she ordered. Very quickly, Jean Xan drove the carriage back. Chu Qingyan helped them into the carriage, then ordered Jean Xan to set off quickly. Because when she held Shangguang's hand, she took his pulse and found that his internal injuries were very serious. If they delayed any longer, he might not be able to keep his life. Tanning was only lightly injured, and Sima Jun was only immobile. Inside the carriage, Tanning said angrily, "If those bastards didn't put a colorless and tasteless anesthetic in Master's food, we wouldn't have been injured so badly." Sima Jun closed her eyes and leaned against the wall of the carriage. When she heard that, she calmly replied, "A hero doesn't talk about his past glory. A defeated man doesn't talk about his misfortune. Speak less and save some energy to regulate your breathing." Chu Qingyan looked at Sima Jun curiously. Although her figure was delicate and soft, her words were powerful. Chu Qingyan thought of the 4 words, imposing without anger. "Don't worry, I have a subordinate who is skilled in medicine in my residence. He will ensure that you are safe and sound." Sima Jun nodded. "Thank you for your trouble." Chu Qingyan could hear the deep fatigue in their voices, so she didn't say anything else. When the carriage entered the residence, Ethereal, who had received the news, was already waiting by the door. When she saw the carriage, she ordered people to help the people inside down and send them to their rooms. Sima Jun glanced indifferently at the residence and the well-trained servants inside. A light flashed in her eyes, then she closed her eyes and handed herself over to this young man she had just met. As Chu Qingyan expected, Sima Jun and Tan Ying's injuries weren't serious. Shangguang's life was hanging by a thread, but with Ethereal's guarantee, he would live well. Chu Qingyan heaved a sigh of relief. After all, these 3 people were saved by her. She had to finish what she started and not let anything happen to any of them. While Ethereal was treating them, Chu Qingyan couldn't help. She planned to go back to her room to change her clothes. After the fight just now, she was sweating a lot. Even her sleeves were stained with blood. She had to quickly get rid of the evidence of her crime. Otherwise, if Big Ice Cube saw it, she would have to bear the consequences. But who was the person sitting in her room? "Stop right there," Xiao Su looked up and called out to the person who was about to leave. His tone was as cold as the winter snow. Chu Qingyan bitterly stopped in her tracks and adjusted her expression. Then, she cheerfully turned around and said with a smile, "Big Ice Cube, you're back so soon. I was just thinking of going to the kitchen to see if there was anything good to eat." Xiao Su wasn't surprised by the little fellow's ability to lie. "What good thing did you do when you went out today?" "Good thing?" Was he going to criticize her? Yes, how did you know?" "I saw injustice on the road and drew my sword to help," Chu Qingyan said heroically. But when she saw Big Ice Cube's icy face, she immediately collapsed. "I went to fight today." "Fight?" Xiao Su glanced at the bloodstains on her sleeves and snorted coldly. He obviously didn't believe her. She wanted to turn a big issue into a small one, but how could she hide anything from his eyes? Someone must have secretly tattled on her. Don't let her find out. Hee hee. She leaned over and hugged his arm. She said coquettishly, okay, I was wrong. Just treat it as if I was practicing target practice. Don't be angry. Aren't I standing in front of you perfectly fine? Xiao Su saw her wagging her tail pitifully and coquettishly. He couldn't continue lecturing her and felt a headache coming on. On the battlefield, when the enemy threw out the 36 stratagems, he would counter every move. He was basically invincible. Unfortunately, the person in front of him only needed to use one move to utterly defeat him. Moreover, it worked every time. Xiao Su could only pat her head. He put on a strong front and said, don't make a move so easily in the future. Be careful not to be caught red-handed. Chu Qingyan nodded. She didn't forget that the people in the capital still thought that they were in Lian City. I was impulsive. Chu Qingyan sincerely admitted her mistake this time. Xiao Su smiled and raised his hand to pinch her cheek. It's not considered impulsive. The person you saved has a strong background. If you can become friends, it's also a good thing. What? Chu Qingyan felt that the atmosphere had changed too quickly. She couldn't understand. Xiao Su smiled and handed her a piece of paper. Chapter 775. Chu Qingyan immediately took the envelope and took out a piece of paper from it. She lowered her head and carefully read it. The more she read, the more shocked she became. It said that there were several unknown forces that had entered Jiangnan recently. They were chasing after a master and 2 servants. Some of these people came from other countries, while others came from their own country. The results of the investigation were that these people were most likely from the mysterious Lan Zhuang organization. Lan Zhuang. These 2 words were very familiar. Chu Qingyan thought for a bit before realizing. Wasn't this the underground Lan Zhuang that Dong Ting had brought her to look for herbs? Originally, I didn't take this matter to heart, but they made a lot of noise and didn't put Shi Xian's government in their eyes. That's why I had Hu Ling investigate in private. This is the news I just received today. Xiao Su explained and nodded at her meaningfully after he finished speaking. Chu Qingyan immediately understood what was going on. Combining what the other party had said during the battle earlier, as well as what Sima Jun and his servant had said, she quickly guessed that the people mentioned in the letter were most likely Sima Jun and the others. Big Ice Cube, did I cause trouble for you? If there were other forces involved, and they had such a strong background, she was a bit worried that she would cause trouble for him. Hearing this, Xiao Su's gentle face suddenly became solemn. He withdrew his hand and placed it behind his back, his gaze deeply falling on her body. Ayan, you don't have to keep thinking that you're causing trouble for me. I'd rather you do things boldly and don't restrict yourself. All these years, she had devoted herself wholeheartedly to him and did everything with him as the starting point. Girls of her age were all bold and reckless and were pampered like a treasure in the palm of others. However, she seemed to be more mature than others since a long time ago. He wanted her to be livelier and more unbridled. Big Ice Chu Qingyan looked up at him. First, she was shocked by his seriousness. Then, she was shocked by his words. When these words entered her ears, she analyzed them bit by bit in her mind. After the clouds dispersed, the essence left behind slowly condensed into a small seed that quietly fell into her heart. Then, it bloomed into a beautiful little flower. That feeling warmed her heart and lungs. After seeing the tears in her eyes, Xiao Su sighed softly. He reached out his hand and placed it on the side of her face tenderly. Ayan, you can be more willful. You won't blame me for giving you trouble? Chu Qingyan asked in confusion. Xiao Su chuckled. When have I ever blamed you for causing trouble? But sometimes you'll be fierce to me. She pushed her luck. You are allowed to be willful, but you are not allowed to hurt yourself. Xiao Su shook his head. This little guy was still so muddle-headed. Chu Qingyan couldn't help revealing a smile after hearing this. She raised her hands and twirled them in front of him, then I wasn't hurt this time. After she finished twirling, she felt that she was really stupid. Love really made people not like themselves. But when she saw the smile on the big ice block's face, Chu Qingyan couldn't help but smile as well. She suddenly thought of a joke she saw on Weibo a long time ago. When you are with the person you love, what is the thing you do the most? You smile as soon as you see them. Now that she experienced it herself, she finally agreed with it. When Chu Qingyan came out after changing into a clean set of clothes, Xiao Su was no longer in the room. However, she heard some small sounds coming from outside the door, so she walked out. Xiao Su was currently talking to Huoling in the yard, so he was a bit distracted in the room. When he saw her come out, he waved his hand at her. Chu Qingyan skipped over. Huoling nodded at her and continued speaking. The Lu family's ship was used as a cover. Official Lin just sent a message saying that the real salt ship hasn't been found yet. And, send a few people to help Feng Yi. We can't let those people get away with it. Xiao Su said in a deep voice. Yes. Huoling replied and retreated. Chu Qingyan stood on the side and listened without interrupting. After Huoling left, she couldn't wait to ask, Big Ice Block, is Official Lin's sudden inspection of the docks related to the smuggling of official salt? Xiao Su nodded. The number of officials involved this time is far more than the previous times, so Feng Yi attaches great importance to it. Chu Qingyan suddenly understood. No wonder Shioli told me that our cargo ship is likely to be detained. Yan Luo will be back the day after tomorrow. What should we do? Can I go through the back door? The person in front of him looked at him with eager eyes. Xiao Su couldn't help but chuckle. You can go through the back door, but you still shouldn't take the initiative to show up. Why? Did he agree or not? Chu Qingyan was confused. Don't you still have an ally, Hua Shioli? Xiao Su deliberately mystified her. Chu Qingyan recalled that Hua Shioli and Lin Fengyi didn't like each other. She felt uncertain. Do you think that if Hua Shioli shows up, it won't make things more chaotic? Xiao Su shook his head and slowly walked forward. Chu Qingyan immediately followed, anxiously waiting for his response. After keeping her in suspense for a while, Xiao Su finally spoke. In the 2 months that you've been staying in the residence, the young master of the Hua family often bumped into Feng Yi. It's become a common occurrence for them to chat over meals. In the many years that I've known him, except for official business, Feng Yi rarely eats at the same table with outsiders. So, do you think the relationship between them is business? If it's not official business, then it must be a private matter. Chu Qingyan casually replied, but after she said it, she seemed to have grasped the truth. Her eyes widened. When did their relationship become so good? It's better to squash enmity rather than keep it alive. Or perhaps, no discord, no concord. Xiao Su commented with interest. He recalled that when he heard about their relationship, he had inadvertently asked Feng Yi about it. Unexpectedly, his reaction was unexpected. It seemed that there was something fishy going on. Chu Qingyan chuckled, that's good. If Hua Shioli can settle official Lin, then it'll be beneficial for our business. Xiao Su chuckled, not necessarily. Who knows, maybe the first one to be destroyed would be her. Chu Qingyan was shocked, then it's better not to be so close. Xiao Su patted her head and smiled without saying anything. At this moment, Jean Exine came to report, Miss Sima has woken up and wants to see Master. Chu Qingyan responded and was about to leave when her wrist was circled by a force. She turned back to look at him in confusion. She only heard him say, "It's fine to make friends, but if you dare to attract any more suitors," the latter half of his words were concealed in a cold snort. Chu Qingyan shuddered and immediately raised her hand to guarantee, "Don't worry, I definitely won't." Hearing that she wanted to, Xiao Su was satisfied and let her go. When Chu Qingyan turned around, she sighed lightly. This big vinegar jar, didn't he just tell her to be more willful? But on this matter, the big ice cube was rather persistent and jealous. After Chu Qingyan left, Turin hurried over with a secret report. Chapter 776. Chu Qingyan followed Jin Xian to a side courtyard in the east wing. That courtyard was specially used to entertain guests. When they arrived at the door of Sima Jun's room, they coincidentally bumped into Ethereal, who was carrying a medicine box. Chu Qingyan stopped and asked, "How is he?" "That young man's injuries are serious, but because he has a strong will, his bones are strong, and he was treated in time, he will be fine after lying down for 10 days to half a month." Ethereal said with a smile. Because he had saved a life, he was in a good mood. Chu Qingyan sighed in relief. "Then what about Miss Sima?" "The drug has worn off, and she has regained consciousness." Ethereal paused and his expression became serious. "Little Wang Fei, when this subordinate took her pulse, this subordinate felt that her internal energy was unfathomable. In a situation where we don't know if she is a friend or foe, you have to be careful." Just as she had expected, this person's martial arts were not below hers. Chu Qingyan nodded. "I will be careful. It's been hard on you. You can go rest first." Ethereal stood in place and did not respond. There was a hesitant expression on his face. Chu Qingyan was curious. "Do you have something else?" As though he had made an important decision, Ethereal gathered his courage, but he didn't dare to look at her. He slowly asked, "I heard that Jean Ling and the others will be back in 2 days. Did their journey go smoothly?" Chu Qingyan pursed her lips and smiled. She was afraid that Kong Ling had an ulterior motive. If he wanted to ask about Jean Ling, he could have asked Hua Ling or Turin. It seemed that the person he wanted to inquire about was not Jean Ling. It was quite smooth. It was just that there was a storm along the way, which delayed the journey. At this point, Chu Qingyan glanced at Jiang Yi. Seeing that his expression had relaxed, she purposely whetted his appetite. "However, during this journey, I heard that a few people caught a cold and fell sick." "Who's sick?" Ethereal blurted out. When he saw Chu Qingyan's teasing expression, he lowered his head and coughed lightly to cover it up. "Don't worry, it's not Yen Luo." Chu Qingyan laughed. After being played by the young Wang Fei, Ethereal's face alternated between red and white. But in the end, she realized she was in the wrong and immediately excused herself. Chu Qingyan looked at his back as he fled. She slowly stopped smiling, but she still couldn't help shaking her head. In the past 2 months, she had heard Xining mention Ethereal a lot. He was like a top that would never get tired, constantly spinning in the medical book. In fact, she knew that the best way to not remember someone was to keep yourself busy. He hoped that the love between the two of them would not be so bumpy anymore. Before Chu Qingyan stepped through the door, she straightened her clothes and strode in. When her gaze landed on the person half lying on the bed, Chu Qingyan froze in place. It was still the snow-white jasmine pattern dress she had worn when they first met today. What was different was that the white veil covering her face had been taken off, revealing a beautiful face. Right now, she was lazily leaning against the wall of the bed. Her ink-black hair was tied up high with a pearl and jade belt. The 2 ends of the jade belt hung down and there were 2 strings of sapphire blue pearl tassels at the end. As she moved, they reflected a serene blue light. There was a pair of green jadeite earrings, simple but exquisite. A lock of long hair fell by her cheeks. Amidst her enchanting charm, there was the beauty of a pure young girl. It was the first time Chu Qingyan had seen someone who could soften 2 extreme temperaments together without making people feel it was out of place. She was like an immortal and a demon. She had the pure immortal aura of jasmine and the seductive demonic aura of roses. She was clearly young, but there was a maturity and steadiness in her eyes that did not belong to her age. So, this person was the one mentioned in the letter, the one who single-handedly established the Blue Manor, the one who kept a low profile and never showed up. At this moment, Chu Qingyan had an inexplicable feeling towards the person in front of her. The less guarded she was, the more suspicious she was. What? Are you infatuated with this lady? Sima Jun saw the dazed look on the person in front of her and could not help but tease her. When such bold words came out of her mouth, Chu Qingyan was shocked when she came back to her senses. She almost forgot that she was still wearing men's clothes. Chu Qingyan lowered her brows and hid her shock. When she raised her head, she walked towards Sima Jun. As if she did not hear her joke, Chu Qingyan asked with concern, "Miss Sima, do you still feel unwell? Your doctor is very skilled." "I'm fine now. Many thanks to young master for your help, for taking us in, and for hiring a doctor for us," Sima Jun said in a sincere tone. Chu Qingyan smiled. "It was fate that brought us together. This humble one did not do much. Miss Sima need not take it to heart. You should focus on recuperating. Meeting young Master Chu is my fortune." Sima Jun smiled again. A beauty's smile was better than flowers blooming in spring. Chu Qingyan almost could not regain her senses. "Miss Sima, although it is not appropriate to ask about your private affairs, after today's incident, this humble one is a little worried for you. Who did you offend to be hunted down like this?" She had a guess in her heart. It was nothing more than a betrayal. Someone wanted to take advantage of the situation to climb up the ranks. But she wanted to hear her explanation, and then use it to judge whether she should intervene. The big ice cube's words made her ponder deeply. Whether one was a friend or foe, and whether one was an enemy or a friend, it was not just a matter of timing. Sima Jun looked indifferently at Chu Qingyan, and the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. Then, the atmosphere suddenly changed. She covered her eyes with her sleeve and began to sob. "It's a long story. I have a family business. It's not big, but it's not small either. I have many subordinates working together. But some people are not satisfied with the status quo. They want to climb up the ranks and take over my family business. So, they took advantage of the time when I was out and plotted to delay the guards who were secretly protecting me. That's why I had no one to ask for help, and ended up with heavy casualties." This beautiful little face, coupled with this sobbing voice, was simply too pitiful. Chu Qingyan stepped forward, not knowing what to say to comfort her. At this moment, Sima Jun spoke again. "Young master, you saved my life. You are my benefactor. I have no way to repay you. I can only repay you with my body. I hope young master will not abandon me." Chu Qingyan's eyes widened and her mouth gaped open. She could not believe that something that had happened on television was actually happening to her. But as if not allowing her to react, Sima Jun had already reached out to hug her. Her voice was filled with grievance and loneliness. "I'm about to become homeless. Young master, can you bear to let a weak girl wander the streets without anyone to rely on?" "Weak girl?" These words didn't seem to fit. The atmosphere changed so quickly that Chu Qingyan forgot to push her away. And the person who hugged Chu Qingyan had a teasing smile in her eyes. "Although I'm not someone who cares about looks, but to be honest, your appearance suits my taste. Marrying you, I won't lose out." When the fierce cavalry outside heard the voice coming from inside, they really wanted to kneel down. "My God, little princess, you've attracted another peach blossom into the house. Take care of master." Chapter 777. Chu Qingyan took a deep breath as she placed her hands on Gu Ruoyan's shoulders and pushed her away. "Miss, please have some self-respect." When Sima Jun heard this, she really wanted to laugh, but she was afraid of angering her, so she suppressed it in her heart. She didn't hug her too tightly, so she took advantage of Chu Qingyan's strength and left to lean against the bed wall. However, she didn't stop wiping the corners of her eyes, looking heartbroken. Sima Jun knew that there should be a limit to her jokes, so she didn't say anything. It was the first time she said such words to someone, so Chu Qingyan also felt that it was inconceivable. They were clearly both women. Chu Qingyan looked at the person in front of her and suddenly felt a sense of helplessness. Why didn't this person play her cards according to the rules? She gave her a shock the moment she appeared. Could it be that the big ice cube's information was wrong? Impossible, this person must be too good at acting. But even though she knew that this person's words were half true and half false, she couldn't expose her. It was simply like seeing a ghost. At this time, Sima Jun's maid, Tan-ing, walked in. Because her injuries were relatively light, she didn't have any trouble moving around. Chu Qingyan took the opportunity to slip away. You master and servant must have something to talk about, so I won't disturb you. I'll come back later to see Mississippi. After speaking, she didn't wait for Sima Jun's reply and turned to walk towards the door. Sima Jun pulled up her sleeves and looked at Chu Qingyan's back view, laughing uncontrollably. Tan-ing originally had a worried expression, but when she saw her master's expression, she couldn't help but be surprised. Master, what are you laughing about? Sima Jun kept her smile and her eyes lit up. Tan-ing, we must have accidentally hugged onto someone powerful. Tan-ying's eyes widened. This subordinate doesn't understand. Soft sounds came from outside. Sima Jun raised her head and her gaze passed through the window and landed on the two figures conversing under the tree. She said with a faint smile. Tan-ing, this Chu Qingyan isn't an ordinary person. If we can cooperate with her, it won't be a problem to get rid of those traitors in Lan Manor. Tan-ing didn't understand. Master, how did you know? The martial arts of the guards in this house are not weaker than those of Shadow. There are no less than 30 hidden guards hiding in every corner of the courtyard. How can they be ordinary people with such powerful guards? Furthermore, they are well trained. It's not hard to tell that they are a team of elites. The decorations and layout of this place are enough to let ordinary people live a rich life for the rest of their lives. Furthermore, she thought for a moment before continuing, from Chu Yan's speech and behavior, it's enough to tell that she has a good upbringing. It can be seen that she's either rich or noble. I also feel that their strength is not what we see on the surface. Shadow was Sima Jun's #1 bodyguard team. Tan-ing had always been someone who only obeyed her master. As long as it was her master's words, she would believe them without a doubt. Her face lit up. If we can get them to help us, then we can ruthlessly strike a blow at those traitors. Sima Jun propped up his chin with one hand and said faintly, however, it's not easy to get someone to help us for no reason. Tan-ing suddenly recalled the scene she saw when she entered the door and couldn't help but complain, Master, could it be that you want to sacrifice your body? Sima Jun choked. She was successfully disgusted by her subordinate's shocking words. Although doing it was one thing, hearing it was another. However, she shook her head and said, Body? I don't think he wants it. Tan-ing was indignant when she heard that. What? Does Chu Yan dare to despise Master? Master outshines the moon and flowers, captivates the birds and beasts. Being with him makes Master feel wronged. Sima Jun chuckled. This little girl's face changed really quickly. Her gaze once again landed on Chu Qingyan outside the window. Thinking of the young girl's fragrance when she hugged her just now, she couldn't help but smile happily. She's not gay. Thinking about how Chu Qingyan's body had stiffened just now, he guessed that she must have been frightened by her shocking words. It seemed like she was still a pure and innocent young lady, and he felt like he had led her astray. Tan-ing didn't understand and was still thinking about the meaning of those words when she heard her master speak again. Let Shangguan recuperate well. We'll stay here for the next 2 days. There's no need to worry about his life. Yes, Master. Also, try to contact our people and investigate Chu Yan's background. Only by knowing yourself and your enemy can we negotiate terms. Understood. Standing under a tree in the courtyard, Chu Qingyan was listening to Jean Xian's report. Jean Ling has sent a message saying that they will arrive at the pier tomorrow. She hopes that we can send people to unload the goods. Bring people to the pier tomorrow to welcome them. With that, Chu Qingyan looked worried. It's just that official Lin is a fair and impartial person. I don't know if he can make an exception this time. I hope that Xioli will succeed immediately. Young Master Hua, she has been doing business in Jiangnan for so many years. She has her own way of doing things. You don't have to worry. Chu Qingyan nodded. Thinking of Big Ice Block's words today, she couldn't help but find it funny. Xioli and official Lin were really an unimaginable pair. Right, from today onwards, we have to strengthen the guards in the residence. I'm afraid that those people will come looking for trouble. After she showed her talent in Jiangnan, more and more people started to recognize her. Those people only needed to ask around a little to find out that she was involved in today's fight. For safety's sake, she had to make the necessary preparations. His Highness has already ordered Hualing and the others to increase patrols in the morning and evening, Jean Xian replied. Chu Qingyan smiled when she heard that. Big Ice Cube was indeed more thoughtful than her. Where is His Highness now? In the study. Chu Qingyan nodded and quickly walked towards the study. She wanted to discuss Sima Jun's matter with Big Ice Block. In the study, Turan respectfully handed over the secret letter. Xiaosu opened it and skimmed through it. A cold smile appeared in his inky eyes. Imperial Mother specially sent people over. Aren't you afraid that this prince will reject them? He casually threw the letter on the table and sneered. Turan replied, this time, Her Highness the Empress sent over the 2D daughters of the uncle of the Three Kingdoms. Because they set off from the Liang family, our people didn't pay much attention to them. However, they recently discovered that the carriage was heading towards Jiangnan and would arrive in 3 days. This immediately attracted the attention of the hidden guards, so they sent a letter to Water Spirit to investigate this matter. Who would have thought that they were coming for Master? After saying this, Turan couldn't help but lower his head. Her Highness the Empress had sent many women to Master in the past, but since Master was annoyed and left for the border last time, the Empress had restrained herself. He didn't think that she would use the same trick again today. The front lines are in an emergency. It's time for Imperial Father to put the Liang family in an important position, so she thought that it was time to pave the way for the Liang family. Xiaosu's tone was cold and it was hard to tell whether he was happy or angry. Turan knew that Master's words weren't clear. As long as the fourth prince withdrew his troops, that would be the time for Master to be summoned to the battlefield. At that time, in order to appease Master's people, His Majesty would definitely promote the Liang family. Turan suddenly felt that the weather was a bit cold. Chapter 778. Turan put away his thoughts and asked, then what about the people sent by the Liang family? His master and the young Wang Fei were in love. If an outsider came to disturb and the young Wang Fei was unhappy, his master would be affected. At that time, the subordinates would be the ones to suffer. So he felt that it was necessary to prevent this from happening. Xiaosu said without thinking, let them go back to where they came from. Turan felt that it was a bit tricky, their guards seemed to have been sent by the Empress from the palace. Xiaosu frowned. It seemed that Muhu wouldn't give up until she got her way. Turan waited for a while and didn't hear a reply from the person above. He couldn't help but call out. Don't worry about them first. Wait until we reach Jiangnan. Xiaosu hadn't finished speaking when his gaze landed on the door. Who's outside? Turan was startled and turned to look. He saw a red robe appear inside the door. It was the young Wang Fei. Turan suddenly remembered the topic he had discussed with his master just now. His expression was a bit unnatural. This subordinate won't disturb the two masters. This subordinate will leave first. Without looking at Turan, who quickly retreated, after the door was closed again, Chu Qingyan looked calmly at the people sitting at the table. What were you talking about just now? Didn't you hear it outside the door? Xiaosu raised a brow. Chu Qingyan's heart was filled with anger. Of course, she knew what he had just said. However, what she had heard and what he had said were two completely different things. Xiaosu didn't sense that something was wrong with her. His mind was thinking about the official salt sale this time. After waiting for a long time and not hearing him speak, Chu Qingyan was annoyed. She strode to his table and put her hands on the table, asking, "Is the Empress planning to send you concubines? According to their status, they should be Zifei or even higher." Muhu had always wanted to support the Liang family. If it wasn't for her hard destiny, she would have already arranged a marriage between him and the Liang family. Or even higher. These words made her feel uncomfortable. Didn't he mean that he wanted to replace her? Then what do you think? Her tone was stiff. What do you want to do? Xiao Su's mind was not on this matter, so when he heard her question, he frowned in confusion. Seeing the impatient look on his face, Chu Qingyan's heart sank. Are you going to take them all in and put them in the residence? I don't agree. But at this time, she remembered that she was in ancient times. In the ancient times, it was normal for a man to have 3 wives and 4 concubines. If the wife was jealous, she would be divorced by the husband's family. So here, the wife had to help take in concubines, manage the backyard, and take care of the children of concubines. Thinking of this, Chu Qingyan felt like she was in an ice cellar. The person in front of her was a hero of a generation. He had many military achievements and was praised by all countries. Other than the Sichuan emperor, his status was above 1 person and below 10,000 people. How could such an outstanding person only have 1 person in his heart? Even if he was willing, not to mention the court, even the Sichuan emperor's descendants would not agree. Everyone said that women in love were fools. They threw their hot blood into the relationship and didn't care about anything else. At this moment, it was as if the cruel truth was revealed in front of her after leaving the sweet life of 2 people. Those 4 words, she couldn't say it out loud. Xiao Su didn't know what she was feeling awkward about. Seeing her red eyes, he couldn't help reaching out to touch her. What's wrong? How should she tell him that she didn't like those strange women getting close to him? He could only have her by his side. A third person shouldn't interfere in their world. But how could she open her mouth to say these words? If he stopped the Liang family's young Mrs. carriage, then she could act coquettishly with him. But he let Turin pass. Did that mean he accepted Empress Liang's arrangement? In the past, he said that he would only accompany her until they grew old. Could she believe it? Some people said that an oath was just a liar saying it to a fool. Was he a liar? The more she thought about it, the sadder she felt. She didn't want him to touch her, so she turned her face to the side and missed his hand. Xiao Su was stunned. At this time, Chu Qingyan didn't want to face him for a second, so she turned and left. Xiao Su didn't have time to stop her before she left with large strides. Looking at his empty hand, Xiao Su couldn't figure it out. But before she left, the little fellow's eyes had a trace of grief and anger, making his heart inexplicably clench. What was the little fellow throwing a tantrum about? Hualing walked in while rubbing his head. "Master, the little princess consort doesn't seem too happy. Did someone bully her?" As soon as he said this, Hualing felt the cold gaze in front of him. He wanted to bite off his own tongue. The little princess consort had left from here, so it must be related to Master. He really touched the pot that didn't boil. This subordinate didn't say anything. He tried to mend the pen after the sheep were lost. Without waiting for the person sitting at the table to respond, Hualing immediately treated himself as heir. He lowered his head and felt the cold air in the room. He wanted to cry but had no tears. Does she look very sad? Xiao Su was silent for a while. Hualing carefully looked up at Master in front of him, but he couldn't tell if he was happy or angry from his face. He could only bitterly consider his words. It seems like it. This subordinate isn't very clear. After saying this, Master in front of him was silent again. Hualing wanted to cry. He shouldn't have mentioned the little princess consort just now. After Chu Qingyan left the study, she aimlessly walked through the house like a ghost. The subordinates she met on the way wanted to go up and greet her, but when they saw how distracted she was, they all tactfully avoided her. A cool breeze blew over, cooling down the heat in her head. She looked at the surrounding scenery in a daze. It turned out that she had walked into her parents' courtyard. She felt that it wasn't appropriate for her father and mother to see her like this. She turned and was about to leave when she coincidentally heard her father talking to Xiao Fan. Xiao Fan, I've been so annoyed lately. Do you know how to climb up that tree and find the little bird? Father Chu was squatting under the white poplar tree in the yard as he rambled on. Xiao Fan smelled her master's scent and immediately stood up from the ground. She shook off the dirt on her fur and happily ran in front of her. Only then did Father Chu notice his daughter standing in the yard. He also happily jumped in front of her. Kai Kai, why are you here? Did you bring something good to eat? Father Chu looked her up and down as though he wanted to pull out some candy from her body. Chu Qingyan forced a smile as she said, I had nothing to do, so I walked around. Didn't my injury heal? I came to see you and Mother. Oh right, where's Mother? She went to the kitchen. She said she wanted to stew something good for you and the scallions. When it came to food, Father Chu couldn't help but drool. When Chu Qingyan heard this, she felt sad inside. Her father and mother liked the big ice cube so much, but would the big ice cube still take care of them in the future? After love waned, would he still love the house and its crow? When a person started to deny themselves, they would then deny everything. Chapter 779. No matter how muddle-headed Mr. Chu was, he could tell that his daughter was in low spirits. Daughter, are you unhappy? Mr. Chu circled around her. Xiao Fan was also squatting on the ground, sticking out its tongue as it looked at her in confusion. Chu Qingyan's eyes welled up, and she almost burst into tears when she heard her closest relative's concerned question. But she didn't dare to show it. She averted her gaze and looked at an unknown point in front of her. She forced herself to sound normal. I've run into some difficulties in my business, so I'm a little troubled. But don't worry, father. I'll be fine soon. Mr. Chu looked at her suspiciously, but he couldn't see anything wrong with her. Finally, he said, then don't keep it to yourself. If someone makes you unhappy, you can find a son-in-law to vent your anger for you. If that doesn't work, you still have father. Chu Qingyan nodded. Then, father ran to play under a tree, shaking his head. Xiao Fan was the only one left in front of her, staring at her unblinkingly. She smiled, but there was a hint of bitterness in her smile. Love made people's thoughts run wild, and they worried about their gains and losses. Xiao Fan, where's your husband? Xiao Fan's eyes were filled with sorrow at her question. Chu Qingyan knew that snow foxes were intelligent, so she squatted down and stroked its fur. She apologized in a low voice, I'm sorry. Xiao Fan tilted its head and rubbed against her palm, comforting her instead. Just then, the gerfalcon flew in from the other side of the yard and landed in front of her. It held its head high and puffed out its chest, looking very stylish. Then, there was a burst of playful laughter. Glutinous Rice Ball and the other two ran into the yard and surrounded the gerfalcon, continuing to clamor. This lively scene made Chu Qingyan forget her troubles for a moment. Thus, Chu Qingyan stayed for dinner. At the dining table, Mrs. Chu poured her a bowl of rice and asked lovingly, why did you come to join us today? No matter how good it looks with spring onions in it, you'll get tired of it, Mr. Chu said cheerfully. Mrs. Chu glared at him. This unintentional sentence made Chu Qingyan slightly stunned. People who had been together for a long time would also hate each other. There was a 7-year itch in marriage. She and Big Ice Cube had only been together for 5 years, and they had already reached this point. Her heart ached. Chu Machen's mother turned around and saw that Chu Machen was lost in thought. What are you thinking about? She asked. Chu Qingyan came back to her senses and smiled. I'm wondering what soup this is. It smells so good. This is stewed pork ribs with mushrooms. I've added some herbs to it. It can be used to nourish muscles and bones. Mrs. Chu said with a smile, "It was supposed to be stewed for you and His Highness, but the servants said that you were here, so they divided it into 2 bowls. Eat it while it's still hot." Chu Qingyan looked at the delicious soup in front of her. Her heart felt a little uncomfortable. She was afraid that it would take half a day to cook this soup. She was reluctant to drink it, but her mother was in front of her. She could only drink it 1 mouthful at a time. "Mother, you don't have to work so hard to cook this for us. Just leave it to the servants." Her heart ached. "What are you saying? How can these things be more reliable than doing it yourself? You and His Highness are still young. You can't lack nutrition." Mrs. Chu shook her head disapprovingly. Chu Qingyan knew that she couldn't persuade her mother, so she could only bury her head and eat. In the main courtyard, Xiao Su was sitting behind the dining table. At this time, Wu Ling walked in with his head lowered. "Master, the young princess Consort is eating dinner in Master Chu's courtyard. She said that you don't need to wait for her." After saying this, Wu Ling lowered his head even more. This time, the young princess Consort and Master would be at odds again. Xiao Su made a sound in response. He picked up the chopsticks and casually ate a few mouthfuls. After a while, he put it down again. "Take it away." "Master, this," Wu Ling looked at the almost untouched food and was a bit surprised. But when he met his master's deep eyes, he immediately shut up and ordered people to take the food away. Xiao Su sat in the study until the moon was high in the sky. When he received the news that she hadn't returned, he sat quietly for a moment. Then he raised his hand and the entire study returned to darkness. After washing up, Chu Qingyan sat in front of the dressing table and let Xining take off her hair ornaments. "Master, I just heard the servants in the main courtyard say that His Highness almost didn't touch his chopsticks at dinner." Although her master didn't say it, as her personal maid, Xining could still sense that something was wrong between the two, so Xining pretended to mention it unintentionally. Chu Qingyan pursed her lips and said angrily, "Whether he eats or not, I don't care." Xining stuck out her tongue and didn't dare to say anything else. At this time, Mother Chu came in and said with a smile, "I just coaxed your father to sleep." Chu Qingyan stood up and thought of her father's reluctant look when she said she wanted to stay. She said a bit embarrassedly, "Your daughter has disturbed father and mother." "What nonsense are you saying?" Mother Chu patted her hand and turned to let Xining leave. Then she took her to lie down on the couch. In the room, the candlelight was flickering and the dim yellow light made people feel at ease. "Kai, do you have something on your mind?" Mother Chu looked at her from the side with a gentle gaze. Chu Qingyan shook her head lightly, "No, why would mother ask this? You gave mother the feeling today, as if you were wronged outside and came back to seek protection." Chu Qingyan rubbed her head with a bitter expression. "Was she that obvious? Kai, if you have something on your mind and want to tell mother, then tell mother. It's okay if you don't want to talk about it. My daughter has grown up and should have her own little secrets." Mother Chu was very understanding. Chu Qingyan's eyes watered and she nodded. After a moment, she bit her lip and asked, "Mother, when father married you, did he think about taking in concubines?" "He wouldn't dare." Mother Chu's tone was slightly serious. Hearing this, Chu Qingyan was happy. Mother Chu knew that she had lost her composure in front of her daughter and smiled embarrassedly. "Before your father married me, he swore that he would only treat me well in this lifetime. How could he go back on his words?" Chu Qingyan was stunned. She thought that the concept of the ancient people was to have 3 wives and 4 concubines, but she didn't expect her parents to be so consistent. She said with some envy, "Mother, it's so good to have met father." Mother Chu rarely mentioned these things in front of her daughter, so she couldn't help but blush. "His Highness treats you very well too. The most important thing is that the 2 of you live well." Her mother's words made her heart turn cold. She couldn't help but reach out and hug her mother with the attachment and confusion of a child. "Mother, I'm a little scared." "What are you scared of?" I'm scared that one day, happiness is just the moon in the water and the flower in the mirror. When I wake up from my dream, it'll become an illusion. Silly child, don't be scared. Happiness is in your hands. As long as you work hard, you'll definitely grasp it tightly. Mother Chu didn't know where her worries came from. She could only pat her back and comfort her in a low voice. Happiness was like sand between the fingers. The more you clenched it, the easier it was to slip away. Chu Qingyan wanted to say something, but she couldn't resist the warmth and sleepiness at this moment and fell into a deep sleep. Chapter 780. Master, we haven't been able to contact our men. In the morning, Tanning stood in front of the dressing table and helped her master comb her hair. Sima Jun stroked the hair in front of her chest and looked at herself in the mirror. Her expression was calm. I'm afraid the other party is forcing them too much. They don't dare to show themselves easily. Master, do you know who's behind this? Tanning asked. She shook her head. There's no need to guess. Who else could it be other than Xingming? But wasn't Xingming punished by you to go to Jiang to repent? Tanning exclaimed. Sima Jun chuckled, but there was no smile in her eyes. Xingming has been eyeing the position of the head of Lan Manor for a long time. Although I broke his left and right arms 3 years ago and he restrained himself, I didn't expect that it was just a trap set up by him to make me relax. After going to Jiang, he can develop his power without restraint. Needless to say, there's someone in Lan Manor helping him from behind. That's why he could expand his power so quickly in just 3 years. Sima Jun frowned. I can't use Lanning now. We've lost contact with Yuing. If we can contact Red Ing, perhaps we won't be in such a passive situation. Tanning cursed Xingming for being a despicable person in her heart. She asked worriedly, but Red Ing probably still doesn't know that we met with trouble in Jiangnan. What should we do? Sima Jun was silent. Tan Ying's eyes brightened. Master, it's fine if we can't contact Yuing and Red Ing. We can try contacting Lord Ji. He still has Bai Ying. No. Sima Jun's expression was no longer calm. Her gaze was cold and her tone was stern. No matter who I ask for help, I won't ask Ji Linyang. But Lord Ji, before Tanning could finish speaking, Sima Jun interrupted her. Tanning was stunned. Master, Sima Jun felt that her reaction was a little too extreme. Her anger rose. She looked at Tan Ying's pale face and knew that her tone was a little harsh. She sighed. Tanning, I don't want to hear his name in the next few days. Tanning nodded weakly. In the past, her mistress and Lord Ji had galloped together on horseback, sharing prosperity. But now, they were like strangers. As her mistress's trusted aide, she still didn't understand how the two of them ended up like this. Tanning, if you have the energy, try and see if you can find a breakthrough in this house. Without me, who knows how much of Blue Manor will fall. There will be a lot of bloodshed when power changes. This is something I don't want to see, so we can't just sit here and wait for death. It was clearly early in the morning, but Sima Jun felt a little tired. Looking for a breakthrough? Why don't you ask me directly? Just as Tanning was about to agree, a bright voice that was like the first light of dawn pierced through the clouds and reached the chaotic world, causing everyone's eyes to light up. Although Tanning was a little flustered, she quickly looked at the person leaning against the door cautiously. She looked as if she could go into battle at any moment. When the voice fell, a trace of bewilderment flashed through Sima Jun's eyes. It wasn't because she was caught plotting in someone's house, but because she didn't notice the other party's appearance at all. She didn't know how much she had heard, but hearing her words, it seemed like she had heard most of it. Young Master Chu came really early. Have you eaten breakfast yet? Sima Jun stood up and asked gently. Chu Qingyan looked up at her. Seeing her nonchalant expression, he secretly admired her acting skills. In the blink of an eye, she was able to change the conversation from a mutual deception to a discussion about breakfast. Chu Qingyan couldn't help but sigh. I haven't eaten breakfast yet. After freshening up, I thought of Miss Sima and wondered if the servants were serving you well, so I came to take a look. We've suddenly come to disturb you and caused you a lot of trouble. We even have to make you worry about us. I'm really sorry. Sima Jun was also a very polite person. She flawlessly put on a show of harmony between the host and guest. Chu Qingyan smiled. You're too polite. I'm just lending a helping hand when I see injustice. Sima Jun also smiled. Then why don't you stay for breakfast with me and talk about the breakthrough? This was Sima Jun. She would drag you around when you were concentrating, and then kill you when you were relaxed. Chu Qingyan was startled at first, but then she smiled so widely that her eyes couldn't be seen. Then I'll accept your invitation. She woke up this morning because she didn't want to face the big block of ice, so she hid in the courtyard and finally came to the side courtyard. She wanted to see the woman who tried to seduce her with a honey trap yesterday, but she didn't expect to hear a good show outside the door. Although she didn't know much about the sects in the Jianghu, she had heard of this lawn manor that wandered between the imperial court and the Jianghu. After all, she had found those life-saving herbs through the lawn manor. She didn't know much about it, but at least she knew that there were several large organizations under the lawn manor. Among them were Shadow, Red Shadow, Purple Shadow, and White Shadow. What she said just now was enough to prove that the person in front of her was someone from the lawn manor. Although she didn't know her specific identity, she was at least an important decision-maker. Then it seemed that the information was true. After the two of them sat down, breakfast was served. Fragrant and soft porridge, tofu with vegetables, youtiao and soy milk, as well as green peppers with meat and other side dishes. Sima Jun had only glanced at the table, but her gaze was fixed on it. Your breakfast is a little familiar. Chu Qingyan didn't suspect anything. We usually eat this. Is it not to Miss Sima's taste? You can get the kitchen to prepare something else. It's fine, I didn't think it through. Sima Jun shook her head. No, it's the taste I like. Tanning smiled and said, our master also likes these in the residence. Us subordinates were also assimilated by our master. The two followed the rule of not talking while eating, and the atmosphere was quite harmonious as they finished their meal. After the meal was taken away, Chu Qingyan sipped her tea, quietly waiting for the other party to speak. Sima Jun was a little curious about Chu Qingyan. At such a young age, she was actually so calm. She didn't know if it was innate or if there was an expert guiding her from behind. However, there was no time for her to waste. Young master, I have something I need your help with. I wonder if it's possible. It's fine, Miss Sima. But before that, can you reveal Miss Sima's true identity? Chu Qingyan smiled lightly. Of course, but courtesy demands reciprocity. Shouldn't young Master Chu also reveal his identity? Oh, no, I should call you Miss Sima Chu. Am I wrong? Her words made Chu Qingyan turn to look at her. Coincidentally, Sima Jun also turned to look at her, and the two of them met in midair. She was clear, calm, probing, and confident. Chu Qingyan suddenly smiled. Of course. She felt that she seemed to have met a well-matched opponent. Perhaps, they could even become friends in the future. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.